Greetings, humans. Let's watch this channel.
Now, some feel that because our world headquarters is in the United States, that Jehovah's Witnesses are an American religion. But that reasoning is like some who say,
well, the Bible's only for the Jews because it was written by Jewish men.
The fact that Jehovah chose the United States as the location for world headquarters doesn't mean that Jehovah's Witnesses are an American religion.
Hey everybody, my name is Jake. I'm a former Jehovah's Witness, current being late to the streamer, and this is Sunday Service. If you've never been here before, it's a weekly stream where me and my chat hang out, watch our old cult leaders, and sometimes other people's cult leaders, and sometimes I have a special guest. And today is one of those days, folks. Last week, if you haven't seen, me and my buddy RC talked about an I always do that, a Jehovah's Witness therapy scam. So if you want to see that, go to the Sunday Service YouTube channel proper where that stream is listed. All of my other channels are in the description, like JW Poopcasting, which is, don't turn off the stream. It's not what it sounds like. It's my dumb edits, like the crap I made at the beginning of this video in Sunday Service. And, oh yes, Ron Pomo, I am the one who made the mistake of giving you moderator control. He's a trustworthy fellow. And I felt like there was some kind of channel business I wanted to get into. Oh yeah, like and subscribe. I think as it do that thing. If you want to become a patron or a member, I've got a video that is, because my last main channel video is going through these leaked elder training videos, or at least some of them. It's gone long. I've got now a lot of stuff about that recorded, but I made an awkward silent supercut of the Judicial Committee training videos, and it kind of turned into a David Lynch film, but also some fart jokes. So if you want to see that for some reason, to the point where you'd pay money for it, you can do that. I'm not a great salesman, and I'm also not great at transitions, which is my way of saying please welcome from the Skeptics and Scoundrels YouTube channel. You might have seen him on The Line doing fun atheist call-in show stuff. It's Eric.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming getting you on the show.
Yeah. We started chatting here and there several months ago. I think I popped in on one of your Patreon only live streams and just kind of popped in for a bit. But yeah, no, it's good to be here. It's I've been a watcher now for a couple years at least, I think, of your channel, and so is my dad. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Oh, really? That's cool. Yeah. Well, Shadow, that's awesome. I'm a fan of yours as well. My guilty pleasure, I actually don't know why I would call it a guilty pleasure. My pleasure is watching atheist call-in shows where theists call in. I don't know. There's something about people arguing and fighting that I just love.
Yeah. Nothing like some good internet drama, like some bickering back and forth. Yeah,
it's sort of fun. Like it has the patina of internet drama. How's that for a word on a Sunday morning? But it's actually good and constructive and entertaining, and good conversations happen. Yeah. And I had actually considered trying to replicate that here, but then I realized I don't actually know how to do that, and it would be chaos. But if we ever decide to get that set up, you should absolutely be on. If you haven't watched Eric on The Line, he's been paired up with all of the good, fun people you like Forrest Valkai and Matt Dillahunty and Eric Gibbons.
In fact, tonight, I actually have not been with Guts of Gibbons yet. I think I
threw that one at the wall. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, but no, it's a matter of time because we're all main hosts there. Actually tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific time, I will be on the line with Paul Agia. So we'll be taking.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, cool.
I love Paul Agia's channel. His channel was very useful to me when I was deconstructing and still, sort of interested in the Bible. Just trying to figure out, well, how much of this do I believe? And his deconstructions are really, really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And if
but
anybody
enough about That guy.
I was going to plug his channel because Apologia is an excellent channel because he deconverted and deconstructed, and he really goes into biblical history and brings up very good reasons why the Gospels should not be taken at face value. And I really recommend seeing his channel. So yeah.
Is he like a former Jesuit? Is that what his background is?
I don't think he's a Jesuit. He's he's from Canada. He's like Eastern Canada, so it's like I don't know if it's like Mennonite type thing.
Mennonite, I think that's what it is. Yes,
but yeah, something like that. But he had a very sheltered religious upbringing, and his deconversion journey began when he went to like the city and started that was like probably like first step. City, started working jobs, and then eventually he started having doubts, and he was reading Ken Ham, a creationist material.
Right.
He came across a passage explaining, it was answering the question, like, how did kangaroos get back to Australia after the flood? And in the book, it proposed that perhaps they traversed floating logs across the sea to get back to Australia. And that's when he I think what he said he just dropped the book right there. And he's like, I can't believe this is what my religion supposedly believes. And that kind of kicked off the whole journey. And he's a great content creator. Go subscribe to him. He's amazing.
And speaking of floating logs, this JW Broadcasting is a real turd, and we're going to get into it. No, I just have a compulsion where if I think of a pun, I have to say it out loud immediately. But I want to get into your background a little bit just so people can get to know you, because you are a former Jehovah's Witness. I am.
I had the misfortune of being born into a JW family. Anyway, I'm in my early 40s now. But the first 26, 27 years of my life, I was a JW. Various levels of like being devout and being serious about it throughout my life. Like lax teenager, I had like friends at school that I would occasionally sneak over and hang out with at their house. And then I graduated high school, and then I got super serious about it. And I was a regular pioneer. I became a ministerial servant. That lasted about a year before I left. And I worked on like the regional building committee. I helped build multiple kingdom halls, doing volunteer work, did like hurricane relief work in Florida. I think it was after like Hurricane Katrina. It was like 2006, 2007. This was going down. Anyway, just so various stuff happened in my life, stuff that made me start questioning things. I ended up isolating myself from my family and the congregation and everything by moving to a different state, completely unknowingly. Once that social reinforcement was gone, I started waking up, and after about 6 months, I was calling myself an agnostic, and about another 3 months later, I was calling myself an atheist. And that was 15 years ago. And anyway, so I've been just doing my own thing. Once I got out of the witnesses, I immediately was like, I got to get my life back on track. So I immediately went back to university, got my degree, started my career, ended up getting married. And so now I live in Washington. And so about a year and a half ago, I was like, I'm turning 40, midlife crisis. Like, I got to do something. I need like a project. So I just I'll make a YouTube channel off, my atheism and what I want to do. Anyway, one of my videos hit it kind of big, and I got like 5,000 subs off of it, like within a few months. Nice. Anyway, so after another year now I'm hosting. I almost don't touch the YouTube channel anymore. I do maybe like one live stream or 2 live streams a month. I'm hoping to get back to making pre-made content, but it's like really time consuming, but I'm going to be doing that here soon. But most of my time right now is spent on the line. I host on the line at least twice a month, and then doing live streams on my channel, and then occasional like spots like this, what I'm doing here, where I get invited somewhere and I can just talk. And so, yeah, that's my life in a nutshell.
No, that's awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that. And like what you were mentioning of just kind of changing up your environment and being away from the routine, that tends to be what shakes people up. In like Ron Pomo was saying in chat, like COVID for a lot of people was that. It was sort of like mandatory, take a couple steps back. And the organization's numbers haven't really recovered. Like they just haven't quite gotten back to what their previous routine is. And a lot of people just, I think, maybe haven't fully woken up, like marched out like this is a cult. But a lot of people are in that sort of stasis that you're in for a while, where for some reason it's not quite connecting. You're just not quite motivated.
Yeah, I think that describes quite well what I was going through when I started deconverting, because I didn't realize I was deconverting when it started. I was like, this just nothing's adding up. This doesn't feel right. It was a lot of like fuzzy feelings and emotions and intuition, because being born a
Yeah.
witness, I wasn't given the tool set needed to really contend with reality. It was just accepting the
Yes.
reality that the organization was feeding me. So
I
yeah,
appreciate you saying that about like not being given the tools.
yeah,
And one of those tools is just language. Like
hmm
you don't know, you haven't allowed yourself to even look at other people in other
yeah,
religions losing their faith. Like you just have no idea what you're
yeah,
going through. And because of the environment you're raised in, you're sort of made to feel like it's a problem with you. And so I think
mhm,
that is the internet. Like that's why it's a problem for Jehovah's Witnesses, is
yeah,
because there's just a lot of people across various different cultures and faiths having similar experiences, and it just touches that place in people's brains where it makes them think like, oh wait,
yeah.
maybe that's what I'm going through.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And thankfully, thanks to YouTube and the internet and stuff, folks can explore those feelings a lot more effectively now than they could, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, because now we're
Yeah.
interconnected. We have these resources. Doubters, I mean, I'm sure how many people are watching right now? 100 folks are in the live
Yeah.
stream right now. Like, I'm sure one or two of you out there are probably in, but you're doubting, and you're like, okay, I want to kind of start examining these things on my own without having to tell anybody, without having to make myself known that I'm questioning. And stuff like this is so great for that, because people can just watch in the privacy of their own home. They can do their own thinking. They're not on the spot. There's no elder body breathing down their necks, and making sure they stay in line. There's no family pressure there. And yeah, no, it's great. We have such great means to connect and to give back what the governing body takes away with the social isolation, with the society, us versus them mentality, and Satan's
Yeah.
world's out to get you, and like it cuts through all that crap, and that cuts that cloud away and just gives you the ability to do that. So yeah,
You know,
it's
I
really, really great.
yeah, no, I maybe before we get into the video and start reacting to it, you mentioning that of just like having like creating a space where people,
Mhm.
can connect, because you're right. I get one of the reasons I've been trying to be a little easier on just like normal Jehovah's Witnesses who pop in the chat and in the comments is because I do get emails from people who are like, I watched your channel for a while, just lurking, kind of hate watching, and then like it
Yeah.
catches on maybe. And so I've had to be like, oh, okay, maybe I got to remember that, like, I don't know, everybody's journey is different.
Yep.
But one of your colleagues on the line, Seth Andrews,
Hmm.
has talked in a recent video that was on there about just kind of like among atheists, which we both are. So that'll be
Hmm.
the bit of the flavor today. I might be a bit more anti-theist, or at least I don't know, edgelord atheist than normal. But he kind of mentioned a deficiency among atheists is just kind of not like focusing on the debunking and on stuff like that, but not so much on building community. And I kind of
Yeah.
wondered, how have you found community after waking up? Because you've been out for longer than myself.
Mhm.
Uh, so what has that been like for you, rebuilding your community?
So yeah, so those high school chums that I hanged out with back back then, uh, while I had cut off communication with them once I got super serious witness mode in my 20s, once I got out, I reconnected with them. So thankfully, I was lucky in that I had friends I could go back to, and they graciously accepted me back into the circle, and they understood that I was making decisions for my religion and not for myself. So I was lucky in that respect, where I had people I can go back to right away. But yeah, a lot of folks don't, and there's lots of atheist or even just deconversion based, like not necessarily atheists, because I know a lot of folks who leave witnesses aren't necessarily agnostic or atheists. They might still be Christians in
Right.
some sense, and that's totally fine. I mean, I will on the line we take theist callers, and we tend to tear apart the arguments, but I don't like tearing apart the person. I want to tear apart what they're
Yeah.
saying, because I see problems in what theism presents. But there's lots of communities out there. You can start, like, here's one. You're interacting with people in the chat. You're listening to Jake and me. Lots of channels like that. There's things like meetup groups you can go to where you can start rebuilding your social circle. And just take it slow, take it one thing at a time. Like I said, the witnesses, the organization does not give us the tools needed to contend with the world as it is, not with reality. So you want to be smart about it. You want to take your time. You want to find genuine friends who are actually there to be your friend and not either to take advantage of you or to abuse you or to, things like that. Just find your niche and figure out where you belong and what feels right to you, because everyone's different. Everyone's journey is going to be different. And it took me, like I said, I had my friends when I left. It took me 13 years to get involved with the online community. And I did it more out of insecurity and like typical middle of your life stuff than anything. But now here I am. And now
don't
I'm talking
let anybody
to you.
fool you. That's why everybody starts a YouTube channel. Is
I know, right? It's every YouTube channel is a cry for help, folks.
Absolutely. Please like us and give us attention. By the way, everyone's saying like they're sneaking in late, getting to the back school. I also am sneaking in late. I am like, and one of the things that I was trying to throw together, I wanted to do more fun editing stuff with this. As I will show later, maybe at the end of the stream, I got very sidetracked last night and made something that really has nothing to do with the channel, but is a YouTube poop nonetheless. But one thing, these broadcasts, I made a video a few months ago about how they're all kind of the same and they follow the same recipe. So I'm sort of loath to follow them. But this one kind of gets into something that I am always... just like it always brings me back, which is kind of me and stuff I've said on my channel before. So here's this.
There's no reason to think that the words being used in Revelation and all of the apocalyptic books of the Bible should be taken literally. In fact, just the opposite. One of the reasons why Watchtower exists is to unravel these J.J. Abrams-esque mystery boxes. I don't know why I said it like that. Think to Watchtower's dramatization of the Hezekiah account, where an angel comes down and kills a bunch of dudes in one night. I had a terrible brain fart and I can't remember any of these people's names, so sound off in the comments.
Oh, the whole time I was just scrambling to stop that clip from playing because it didn't even render right. Listen, okay, the point of that was J.J. Abrams-esque mystery boxes. Mm-hmm. And I thought that I rendered the clip where I put it side by side with the JW Broadcasting. Anyway, so if you haven't seen it, that's what we're about to get into. JW Broadcasting for August 2024. And let us get into this. I'm going to share my screen here. It just kind of felt like a weirdly similar thing to something I had talked about on the channel. I mean, it's not that they were like, ooh, we're going to go to alt-worldly for our theological illustrations, but no, like I had just I've offhandedly a few times throughout the years just kind of like compared prophecy to that, like that God for some reason is J.J. Abrams like creating this complicated mystery box world with like twists and cliffhangers, and then but for some reason apparently Watchtower thinks that actually is an awesome idea, and that would make God really cool. So that's kind of what they're doing here. I think we can skip past the introduction little theme song thing, and I just want to make sure I got this playing at 1.5 speed. And you get the theme song really comes through the faster you play it.
Yeah. Oh, so gentle. It's like it's bringing you into his loving embrace and just saying, "Come here." Come here and listen to our message. Be warm. Yeah.
We've really never talked about it, but it's kind of a morning show intro. Like it's sort of, like it's that kind of easy listening thing. Okay. So it starts so creepy. It's why I only want to make edits anymore and not bother saying anything with my face. It's because their videos are just so creepy. So you just got this guy saying, do you like secrets?
What about secrets? Are you good at keeping honorable secrets confidential?
Honorable
Jehovah
secrets.
Had a secret that he kept for about
Wait, right away. That's something.
Immediately, it's like, are you good at keeping honorable secrets confidential? Let's talk about the elder body. Are they good at keeping honorable secrets confidential?
Yeah.
Are their secrets quite honorable? I don't know.
That's a great point. I was going to go the other direction with it, which is that the religion is sort of based around if you find out that somebody is sinning, you have to police them and report them to the elders. But that would be because it would be keeping a dishonorable secret. If you found out that someone was going on dates with a worldly coworker, that would be dishonorable, and you would not keep that secret. But an honorable secret, like, maybe who's committed crimes in the congregation against children, that would be honorable.
Yeah. Isn't that weird how if the secret is kept by the rank and file, I'm sure they would say this is not an honorable secret, you need to tell the elders. But then once it's in the elders' hand, now all of a sudden the honorable switch turns on, and now it's an honorable secret to keep, because they don't think they have to contact the authorities about anything like this. So it's amazing how it changes depending on who's holding it. The secret, the type of secret changes depending on who's holding it. Yeah.
No, that's exactly right. I hadn't even caught that because I kind of listened to this in the background when I was at work on Friday, and the whole framing of secrets being good I found very odd, because normally Watchtower would say the opposite. But that one word, honorable, exactly. It's okay to lie if God says so.
Yeah.
BBC opening, yes, people are saying that.
Yeah,
wait, I gotta give proper credit. Apparently Sparky said that first, and then PBS vibes. That's
definitely PBS
absolutely.
vibes. It would be fun to have a comparison like this versus others, and see maybe you find one that's like, this is the one they totally copy.
Yeah, that's something that boy, if somebody wanted to do it, it would make a good video. But there's a lot of JW songs that are just clearly ripped off from worldly worship hymns, like a lot of the Kingdom songs. But then there's their original songs are stylistically really similar to secular music, and I think you could make a good video. And one that I noticed as a witness was that I think it's The Joy of Pioneering, or one of those songs, is melodically it's the exact same as the Jurassic Park theme song. It's like da, 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 da.
Nice.
So you could have some fun with that. That's just a pitch for anybody in the audience.
That's so funny, because I haven't. Like I said, I left 15 years ago, so we were still in the old songbook. So I know virtually nothing about the new song. All I've heard was that the new songbook, the new songs are very bland and more hypnotic than kind of like some of the more catchy tunes from the old songbook.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think I was really annoyed by it as a witness. I had a real problem with it because what I found is that in terms of the songs themselves, they kept a lot of the old ones, but they made the arrangements just a lot more chopped, in staccato, and they wouldn't, where people might have to kind of waver their voice, oh, they were just oh, it was, I don't know music language, but that's what I was getting. Oh, very good, sir. Jurassic Park witnessing. I legitimately did do park witnessing as a witness. Oh, that just unlocked a memory. Okay, let's get back to Creepy Gage Flegel. I think he's kind of going for the heir to Stephen Lett face department for when Stephen Lett kicks the bucket, because he is
for
kind
1,000 years
being extra creepy.
Unlike human secrets, which often are difficult to keep confidential, Jehovah's sacred secret would be
Boy, do
revealed
they know
by
it.
divine revelation. In other words, Jehovah would reveal the details only in his due time.
Okay, I'll let this
Proverbs
play out a
25
little
verse
bit
2
more.
says, "It is the glory of God to keep a matter secret." What's the
That's
secret
a
we're
weird
talking about?
scripture.
That is weird
It's related to
scripture.
the first prophecy recorded in the Bible.
It's funny how that
Genesis
scripture
chapter
doesn't
3, verse
differentiate
15.
between honorable and dishonorable secrets. That's something they're
It
at.
doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And I'm also wait a minute. Is he saying that this proverb, which is a proverb, by the way, not a prophecy, is saying that it's directly related to Bible prophecy? Because that doesn't make any sense. Should we look up the context of this?
Everything is a prophecy once you can use it for something. I mean, why not?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It bothered me a lot even as a witness that they would use a psalm to justify a day to Jehovah as 1,000 years, because I'm well, but it's a psalm, it's a poem.
Yeah, it's a poem. Yeah. No, we take this one literally. We read it. We feel the feels. We feel really hard, and we go, yeah, I think this one's literal.
Really is. Yeah.
Yeah. 1,000 years is as a day to God, obviously.
Well, we'll also see that they must interpret something, to justify their pre-existing belief that the Bible is inerrant. So they will just kind of reverse engineer everything. Okay, so what is it? Proverbs 25 something. I just have it on a different screen. 25:2. It doesn't actually. Okay, I'm going to share this. So, apparently he's about to say, like, oh, well, the secret that this is talking about is actually a prophecy, because secrets and prophecies are the same thing. That's what I'm getting out of this, and correct me if you think I'm misrepresenting what he's saying. But all it says is, these are the Proverbs of Solomon, blah, 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 blah. It is the glory of God to keep a matter a secret, and the glory of kings is to search through a matter. As the heavens are high and the earth is deep, so the heart of kings is unsearchable. This doesn't, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's the beginning of the whole thing. So there isn't much context to start with. You can only talk about what comes after. But like, what is the ultimate like thrust of Proverbs 25? It's 28
Yeah,
verses.
it seems like remove the wicked one from the king's presence, and his throne will be firmly established in righteousness. Do not honor yourself before the king. Do not take a place among prominent.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, among the prominent. For it is better for him to say to you, come up here, than to humiliate you. It's about being like humble in the face of a literal king.
Yeah.
Do not rush into a legal dispute. For what will you do later if your neighbor humiliates you? Like, this kind of seems...
I just did a Google for Proverbs 25 Cliff Notes, and
Hey,
here's the AI generated thing. Take that with a grain of salt. But it says Proverbs 25
Right.
of the Bible includes statements from Solomon that cover a variety of topics, including relationships, reputation, self-control, and arrogance. And then here's a list of the stuff. So, yeah,
Fascinating.
nothing in here apparently about the future or prophecy or anything like that.
This is interesting. King James says it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search out a matter. I was about to say, it's about kings. Actually, it should have parallel translations, right?
Should. I usually go to Bible
Just because
Gateway.
I'm kind of curious. Wait, why is it not doing it?
In my journeys as an online atheist activist, whenever I have a conversation, I tend to go to Bible Gateway, because when you say
Yes,
you can't go to a normal Christian to say here's a neural translation, they're just gonna laugh.
No, I know. I used to use Bible Hub, and now it's kind of unusable. But yes,
Yeah.
that's my one atheist review of BibleHub.com. Bring back the old UI. Okay.
What's the secret we're talking about? It's related to the first prophecy recorded in the Bible, found at Genesis chapter
How do
3,
we
verse
know that?
15.
Okay. Yeah.
Flegel,
How would
how do we
Jehovah
know
fix
that?
the damage caused by the rebellion in the Garden of Eden?
Hey, fruit check. They're keeping it consistent where it's
Hey,
not
cool.
quite. Not an apple.
They're not apples. Can't feed into that misconception. They're
Also not
fruits.
quite a pear. There's like a lumpy
Yeah,
fruit
it's
that
kind of
only
weird.
existed in the Garden of Eden.
Red on top and it's green on bottom. I don't know.
That's right. Look at that. Why is she all... Is it bitter? Did it not taste good?
I don't know.
Because her face is like, I did not like that.
It tastes so good, but I feel so bad after eating it. I don't know.
She just has indigestion.
Yeah.
Jehovah said to the serpent who deceived Eve, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring.
Yeah.
He will crush your head.
One
and
thing
every
that
and you will
was interesting for me to learn...
strike
Wait, I'm
him
gonna wait
in
for
the
me to
heel.
get past this part. It was interesting to learn, like, after deconstructing, that it's not unique that Jehovah's Witnesses interpret this as a prophecy. Like, that's a very common evangelical reading of just kind of retconning the Adam and Eve story to foreshadow Jesus Christ. I thought that was exclusive knowledge that I had gained as a Jehovah's Witness, but it turns out that's kind of common, I guess.
Yeah, probably fairly common. I always got tripped up, not tripped up, but I always like raise an eyebrow at the ordering of the scripture, because I was like, you will bruise him in the head and he will bruise back in the heel. And I was like, the ordering's wrong though, because the bruise to the heel was supposedly Jesus' death and sacrifice. And then the bruise to the head, which Flegel will say later on, is basically Jesus and Jehovah crushing Satan with a blow to the head. But the ordering's wrong. The blow to the head comes first, and then the heel comes after. So I wonder how they do that, because I mean that's just basic chronology, and they messed it up right there. I don't know.
Yes, it doesn't make any sense. I always thought it just seemed arbitrarily like, well, the heel is like, it means this, and the head is this, and crushing means this, and strike means this. And they also very conveniently change it from seed to offspring, which makes it more clearly seem like it's perfect. Maybe that's a nitpick because seed obviously it meant the same thing.
Yeah,
But
you got to be. That's all you got to be careful in New World Translation because they will slippery change words to fit the narrative that they're trying to push. And
yeah,
the
just
word might be
adjust it.
close. Yeah,
Yeah,
the word might be
adjust the
close, but
knobs.
it's not quite what a lot of other people will say usually.
Oh, good question. It used to say bruise. Yeah, that's
It did.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Lava Blue says, when did they change bruise to crush? I mean, I know, but I wasn't in English at that point and didn't notice this. Yeah, I also think crush just seems a whole lot more. I mean, it's just honey, my head got crushed today. She'd be like, well, how are you even talking to me?
Like
Because that would mean like your head.
King James is a bruise on both sides. Bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So it's the same.
Double bruise?
Double bruise. Yeah. And a bruise to the head is not lethal. Like I've taken so many hits to the head. It's not going to kill you.
Who are you telling? Yeah, we both have CTE, and we've never played football.
But
and
actually,
YouTube is a dangerous game.
That is true, though. Quick tangent on one of the Kingdom Hall builds that I was on, a cinder block actually fell on my head.
Get out of here!
It hit me. It was a glancing blow. My head was angled right. It was the broadside. I was lucky as fuck getting out of that. But once when it happened afterwards, everyone was like, "Oh man, an angel was protecting you," because I got up and walked away from it. But I looked back and I went, "Oh man, I was so lucky that thing hit me the way it did." Because oh man,
oh my god, that's nuts. This really made me laugh. I don't know why on here. Yeah, like if you went to the ER because your hand was crushed, they'd rush you back. If you went to the ER because your hand was bruised, they'd be like, "Can you please just go home and not make us waste our time?"
Yeah.
Like, sus.
He will
Very
crush your
sus.
head, and you will strike him in the heel. What an intriguing prophecy. It was spoken some 6,000 years ago, but its meaning affects each one of us. And
was
every
it spoken
person
6,000 years ago? It was written 6,000 years ago, maybe, but was it actually spoken? How do you know?
Spoken.
Yeah.
Maybe they're saying that because they are imagining that, like, they're conceding that the Bible accounts or the Genesis accounts were like at first passed around orally, like just by oral tradition. And so while they were saying this, people were just always saying, many people are saying the prophecy of the woman and her offspring. Yeah. And then someone named Moses just wrote it down.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. That's a lot. I like, just as a weird grammar thing I've picked up on, they always say like some 6,000 years ago, there were some 800 at the assembly. Like, why just give me an estimate. I don't need some. I've never heard anybody say that.
Almost 7 people agree with us.
Some 17 people.
Some 17 people.
Who was behind the voice of the serpent? Who was the woman? Eve might have thought that she was, because when she later gave birth to Cain, she said in Genesis 4 verse 1, "I have produced a male child with the help of Jehovah." But Eve was not the woman of the prophecy. Jehovah's secret was still a secret. Who was the offspring of the woman? If Eve thought it was Cain, she was sadly disappointed.
For the first time ever, Eve was disappointed in Cain. This is so strange. Like, it just makes so much more sense that it was a parable about, like, this is why snakes don't have legs, and if you step on them, it will bite you in the heel.
Yeah.
That is a very clear, simple interpretation of it. And it's like, well, but maybe every single word means a totally unrelated different word. So it can just mean whatever.
That's the beauty of prophecy. You don't know what the words mean until after the prophecy comes true. And then all of a sudden, obviously, a strike to the heel, it obviously means, a guy dying for 3 days and then coming back. I mean, obviously. Right?
Yeah. I had a thought about all this. Because I was making a video earlier this year and pulling some clips about like conspiracy minds, about people who had like broken free from it and stuff. And I was listening to this interview with somebody who believed in QAnon and then deconstructed. And what I've heard him and a lot of people who get wrapped up in it say is that they get really addicted to that kind of code breaking aspect of it. Yeah. Like it feels like, if you're just a fan of like a movie franchise and they drop some Easter eggs in the trailer and you're kind of decoding everything, that code breaking aspect of it is really satisfying. And so the fact that they're kind of leaning into this puzzle box aspect of it, I think that is something that's really appealing to a lot of witnesses.
That's a great analogy. You actually just made a really good comparison there, because immediately what comes to mind is all these Star Wars channels, which I used to consume, like devour like crazy, but now the content these things put out is like the real reason why Anakin Skywalker couldn't turn off his suit, when he was Darth Vader, or the real reason why the rebellion didn't use TIE fighters, like stuff that's nowhere in the official lore, like stuff, they're just stuff that's completely invented by picking up little bits and pieces and then drawing like Charlie from It's Always Sunny, like putting it up onto a board and just like drawing all these lines and using yarn. Yeah, that's exactly what these guys are doing. They're taking these disparate passages from the Bible and just crafting a narrative. And it's great for Star Wars content on YouTube. As much as I don't watch it anymore, and I'm not shaming anybody for watching it, I do look at it and I go, it's a little cringe, because they're just completely pulling this out of their asses. But that's basically what's going on here. It's they have finite material. They have poured over it so many times. They have rehashed it so many times that they have to start doing stuff like this. They have to start manufacturing new things to keep the audience interested, or else you're going to lose people. Yeah, it's
my
great.
favorite. And what I was thinking as you said that is, wouldn't it be great if there was a new Star Wars channel, kind of written in the voice of my video essays, that got into silly, fun things about Star Wars? Wouldn't that be great? Soon, maybe this week. But
episode 1, Carrie Fisher's Coke nail and Return to the Jedi.
No, I've been writing a lot of Star Wars scripts because I've been thinking, like, fuck it, maybe I should just lean in and make a good Star Wars channel that doesn't fucking suck. But I think about this a lot, the kind of intersection between like Bible prophecy, because I realize very consciously that, like, I do this, like, part of the fun of Star Wars to me, like, I like the fact that there are plot holes that you can kind of fill in with headcanon. Like, I just find that fun for fiction. The best example of this that does kind of feel like if you are a biblical literalist / Star Wars literalist, like everything must make sense to you, is in Return of the Jedi. There's this, like, the choreography on the Jabba ship section is just absolutely terrible, and there's this very clear scene, it's kind of famous, it's a gif that you've probably seen around, where Luke kicks, and there's a stormtrooper about 10 feet away from him who, like, goes back. But Star Wars fans figured this one out. It's a force kick.
It's a force
silly
kick.
It's a force kick, and you and I know that. But a lot of people, these, edgy atheist red letter media types who think that they found plot holes in Star Wars, they don't understand that there are answers out there. Anyway, so that's what's wrong with my brain. But anyway, okay, good combo.
Jehovah would reveal these details according to his...
Oh, sorry, my bad.
No, it's a good tangent.
It was a very good tangent.
Timetable, long after Adam and Eve died. We might compare the revealing of Jehovah's sacred secret to this puzzle box.
We might.
It's
but
locked.
He's going to do it, so maybe he's just...
I don't want to see what's inside your box,
However, a series of steps leads to opening the box
keep it yourself,
and
man.
revealing the treasure inside. Those steps are like the details that led to identifying the promised offspring of the woman. What were some of those details? Over 2,000 years after the prophecy in Eden, Jehovah made a promise to the faithful man Abraham that provided a piece of the puzzle. What did Jehovah say?
I think that... I don't know. How do you feel about this for them as a strategy? Because, like, I brought this up as a reason why the Bible is not true. Like, it seemed like that's why I wanted to show that clip. Like, to me, as a witness, I started to be really bothered by the idea that, like, God, it was because I had to give this talk on essentially the whole thing in the Garden of Eden and why God allows suffering. And the more I went over it, the more I was like, this doesn't make any sense. It didn't have to be like this. Like, if God's all powerful, blah, blah, blah. And it makes you think, like, well, why does he keep secrets anyway? Isn't that weird that he's, like, all sneaky and secretive? But it seems like they're like, no, this is cool. Check it out. This is how prophecy works. I guess I'm asking, like, do you think that this is appealing or revealing? And if it rhymes, it was a good question.
I think presenting the information like this from Flegel and his cohorts, it generates intrigue. It's like, like, let's say, like, Lost. Remember Lost?
My favorite show.
Yeah. So imagine if they just kind of just spilled everything at the beginning in episode 1, and then the rest of the seasons were just hashing it out just to show you how it went down. Like you have to create that intrigue. You have to generate that question, that mystery box, like you said earlier. But the funny thing is, just like J.J. Abrams' mystery boxes, the mystery box J.J. Abrams creates, he has no idea how to solve. He just passes the problem on to somebody else, and they have to solve it.
Right. Yeah,
that's exactly
he developed a mystery, a setup for a pilot with Damon Lindelof, and I don't have to go into everything, but that's exactly it. Like, and that was I was about to go on a lost tangent. I won't do it, but you're absolutely right. Like, part of the thing is that the mystery is more exciting than the answer. Mm-hmm. So, that the fun of the story is kind of introducing mysteries, and that's fine in fiction, as long as you're able to make good out of it. But they're kind of staking this on the season finale isn't here yet. The season finale is Armageddon, and all will be revealed, and maybe also in Paradise with the new scrolls, which I should talk about at some point. But
it is funny though how so all the books of the Bible, certain groups of books were written by the same person supposedly, but we have like all these authors separated by centuries, separated by time and distance, writing all this stuff, and then only today can this group now draw the lines for you. They want to present it to you as if, until now we had no idea about these things because we didn't come by, us being God's anointed, God's special chosen representatives on earth for him. We're telling you what these things are. And so that probably is right there part of the value of the mystery, because if they don't frame it like that, then really when they came by, they didn't offer you anything new. They want to frame it as, we're here to give you the answers, and only we have those answers. And we see that pattern constantly with, we revive true worship. The governing body, back in the 30s were persecuted, and this is a sign that we are, spiritually anointed and all this stuff. And that's how they have to frame it. They have to do it this way, or else they don't offer you anything else other than just like I said, just Charlie conspiracy theory explanations. That's very similar to any other religion.
Yeah. Well, I think, I have like 3 quick tangents I want to go on. First of all, funny comment from Robin Brooks, as a former English lit teacher. I'm sorry, we teach kids to do this kind of decoding. Some of them just take it too far. No, I think it's, that's what starts to become a problem, I think, is when people start to apply the way that we decode stories to the way that they decode reality, because reality isn't a narrative. Like, it just is messier, and accidents happen and coincidences.
There's a saying among New Testament scholars and even Old Testament scholars. I think Bart Ehrman, said this at one point. It's very simple mantra to go by. Let the text speak for itself. Because once you are analyzing a text and you're starting to inject your meaning into it, you're going to go way off course.
Yes.
You need to let the text speak for itself. And this is not what this guy's doing right now. He's injecting their doctrine into the text when you should just be reading the text. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're going to see a really good example of that later, too. Because that's absolutely right. They're starting from the end point and working backwards. I did just want to shout out Based Chronicles of Lucy Fur. Can we agree that the Jedi are actually the bad guys? I think that's absolutely correct. I wanted to... A couple people were doing the Secrets thing. I think Jenny Bloom wins for Sacred Secrets Are No Fun. Sacred Secrets heard someone, which is very good. And then, did want to shout out Natalie, and also kind of chastise Natalie Sanchez for insinuating that the ending of Lost is bad, which is untrue. But they asked for a Lost tangent, and so here's something that I'm going to genuinely try and flip around and make it apply. We'll see if I can do this so I can justify this tangent. But one of the things that is really interesting about Lost, like what you said, is true. Like, J.J. Abrams was there for the pilot, and that was basically it. And then the show was run by Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse. But the one thing that J.J. Abrams really wanted, he had this idea during the pilot and wanted it in the show, was that the people on the island who'd crashed there would find this hatch buried in the woods, like this door, this hatch that would lead somewhere, and you would wonder for the whole season what it was. And so Damon's like, oh, wow, it sounds amazing. What's in the hatch? And J.J. Abrams said, I don't know. So they wanted to put that in the show, but Damon Lindelof's thing was we can't introduce something into the show until we have an explanation for what it is.
Yep.
So the hatch comes in about midway through the season, or kind of in the last third, and they only introduced it because he had come up with the answer when he was like, okay, here's what's going to be in the hatch. And I won't spoil it if you've never seen it, because it's a really satisfying answer. That's another script I have about the hatch. Stay tuned. There's a lot of stuff coming. Or none, because I have ADHD and I can't finish anything. But I think that's the difference, right? Like a lot, the Bible prophecies that kind of seem to make sense are ones where they are kind of writing the explanation into it, like the Daniel's prophecy, which is all sort of written after the fact to appear as if it is fulfilling prophecy, when really it isn't. Like it stuff works better when either the retconning is really good, like the Breaking Bad writers were famously really good at that. They would introduce something and not know, but they were just really good at figuring it out. And that is kind of what Matthew is. How is that? How is that for a pop culture analogy to the Bible? Because the Matthew's kind of like, hey, check out all these prophecies that Jesus fulfilled.
Yeah.
Flawless.
Jesus did this in fulfillment of this prophecy, like spelling it out. And it's like, oh, gee, I wonder what this author's motivations are.
Yes, exactly. When I submit my reel to the line, this part will be cut out. That was just for everyone else.
You find his words at Genesis 22, verses 17 and 18. I will surely
Something about
bless
speeding
you,
him up is
and I will
funny because it
surely
seems like
multiply
he's
your offspring
panicking.
like the stars of the heavens,
Really
and like
trying
the
to get
grains
through
of the sand on the seashore. And your
Yeah.
offspring will take possession of the gate of his enemies.
But he's really talking
By
so
means of your
slow.
offspring, all nations of the earth will obtain a blessing for themselves. Wow.
Wow.
Jehovah revealed the
Wow.
first detail to unlock his sacred secret.
This I love.
Abraham must have been amazed when he looked up to the heavens and saw thousands of stars. Although Abraham would not see the complete fulfillment of the promise in his lifetime, it certainly would be fulfilled.
This is a
at future
high
time
production
by the God who
value
does not lie.
episode.
Yeah.
Jehovah.
That's why I had a special guest.
I assume that was a clip from some other production they did, because they probably recycled.
I'm assuming so.
Yeah.
I don't recognize it.
Yeah. It's just a guy.
Oh.
It's just a guy in a costume with a green screen behind him. It doesn't cost that much money. Yeah.
They basically, like in the behind the scenes videos for their new production facility that they're making, and like when they were filming the Good News According to Jesus, like it really looks like they built something akin to the volume that they filmed The Mandalorian in, where it's just like this kind of big 360-degree green screen thing.
Wow.
By the way, this is a really great comment that actually does tie in very well, which is that, like in regards to J.J. Abrams inventing a mystery and then passing it on to somebody, this is what generations of JW leadership do. The next generation will fix our plot holes, says Ron Bomo. Yes, I think that
overlapping generations comes to mind.
Yeah,
Like,
and I think like that, in my opinion, when people are like they talk about the governing body having some big master plan, I think that's just obviously not the case. Like I think at some point, a lot of them probably realize, I don't know if we actually have the Holy Spirit guiding us, or they're totally invested in it.
Yeah.
But all their goal is to make it through their own lifetime, really. Like they're just trying to hang on.
yeah, they're constantly just plugging holes in the dam with their finger, just trying to keep as much water in as possible, keep as many people in as possible, because that generates them revenue. But yeah, it is a constant cycle of damage control and triage that they're performing here, basically. Because like the overlapping generations thing, once 100 years had passed between, or almost 100 years between 1914 and then 2014, it's like, oh wow, a literal this generation shall know these things, or this generation shall not pass away before these things come to pass. A literal interpretation of that, like, oh crap, this is wrong, because the generation's literally gone, like they're dead. So they had to immediately come in and triage the situation, and with that overlapping generations thing, and that's what this is all is. They've been doing this now for 100 or so years. Russell came by
nearer to 150 years, I think.
Well, maybe like slightly less than the organization's been around, because the first set of teachings, which are going to be so foreign to your modern witness today, like completely different. But that got put into place, and then all of a sudden it's got to be revised, and we're on like version 38 or whatever, iteration 38 of this religion, and it's just this perpetual, never-ending cycle. The next generation, this guy and whoever comes after him, are going to be doing the same exact things. And
I think that's an excellent way to put it. And I think it's a big reason why a lot of the new light is actually flip-flops to stuff that they now realize worked better in the past.
Yep.
So we'll actually get into that later, because that's not how they portray it to their members, obviously.
Repeated the promise to Abraham's son Isaac, and to Isaac's son Jacob. Jacob, in his deathbed prophecy, said at Genesis 49:10,
No. The next generation, it'll really happen.
Would not depart from Judah. So we learned that kingship is involved, and that the promised
we
offspring.
learned that kingship is involved. What does that even mean?
How many on the timeline? How many years between that first prophecy that was, I guess, uttered to Adam and Eve about their offspring, and now we're talking about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob? That's like what, at least 1,000 years in the timeline?
It's at least 1,000 years. Yeah, people lived for hundreds of years.
But they're in the same book, so obviously they must be linked, even though 1,000 years apart. Like, would they even have known about the bruising of the head and heel thing? No, those people, assuming those people existed, which I highly doubt, they would not have known anything about this. But it's now up to us, thousands of years later, to grab these two little data points and go, oh, we can draw a line right here, and this fulfills whatever prophecy. Yeah.
And really, I think it goes back to this selfish argument of like, well, if God hadn't let everything drag on for so long, you wouldn't have been born. Aren't you glad that you're here and you get to see Armageddon? And honestly, I don't think that's a very good argument. Like, well, no, I wouldn't know if I was born, if I hadn't been born. So no, I don't care about that. But I think that's kind of what they fall back on.
Yeah.
Later, Jehovah provided the Mosaic law to help protect the nation of Israel.
And the funny thing too is that that's not even
offspring.
Just think in mind, that's not even a response to the question. That's just a distraction. It's just a whataboutism, because when you ask, okay, couldn't God have revealed these things sooner? Isn't God all powerful, unbeatable? Like, couldn't God have just day one laid out all his cards on the table and says very specifically, I'm going to do this and this and this, and boom, mankind is fixed. Like, no question, no doubt, nothing. Satan even knows God's full plan. Isn't God strong enough and smart enough and most powerful enough to still beat Satan with all his cards on the table? Why didn't he? Why does it have to be wrapped up in mystery? What is even the point of the secrets? Because God doesn't need them to win. And it's goes back to the problem. This is like the classic problem of evil. Like, they believe in. Although the witnesses that came to my door a year ago, one of them disagreed with me on this, but most Christians, and I think the witnesses are among them, they believe in this tri-omni God, omnipotent, omnipresent, omnibenevolent. Like, he is the maxed out stats in all these three. And it's like, if you believe in a God like that, then you don't have to have a God that has secrets. You don't have to have a God that does all this cat and mouse, cloak and dagger prophecy and fulfillment and waiting for the right time. Like, he doesn't need any of that. Like, this is all human invention. These are humans making up stories to explain the scary things they see in the world around them. This is not the workings of a all-powerful God. So like every time Flegel or anyone in the governing body has to like do this song and dance, they are basically admitting that our God could not have done this any other way, because if he could have and he didn't, he's not all loving, because we have a lot of suffering in the world. But if he couldn't because he's not strong enough or smart enough, then he's not omnipotent. Like, it puts you into this weird position puts them in this weird position of having to admit that, yeah, God could have done it better, but he didn't, or my God was unable to do it better. And it's like this thing they can't get out of.
Yeah, because by their definition is that the whole world is essentially a challenge, a Laustian challenge between, God and the devil, and each side is kind of betting on which one will win. And if that was the case, well, then both sides would just make their argument clear. Like, everyone who's born, as soon as their conscience, we could all at the same time receive the exact same information, vision from God, just like simulcast into our heads. Like, here's what's up. I'm real. Prove it there. Now you believe it. Here's the thing. You still have free will. But just, you gotta pick a side or whatever. Like, it could be, we could have clearer information by their own definition.
What was the next significant detail to be revealed? In 1070 BCE, Judah's descendant David became king over all Israel.
Were they Vikings?
David was a man agreeable to Jehovah's heart. And Jehovah promised to raise up someone in David's royal line.
That's an interesting crown. It's more of a band.
The promise is recorded at 2 Samuel chapter 7, verses 12 and 13.
All right,
I will raise up your offspring.
I like the
The offspring would come through David's line.
Wait,
It sounds so cheap, like Clink.
They should have done like the slow-mo of the One Ring, falling and hitting the ground. And
give it some weight. Yeah, like
we'll slow it down so we can see what it's really like. Oh.
There you go.
That's pretty good.
That hits a lot harder.
Yeah. And even then.
The offspring would come through David's line. Although David's son Solomon had a peaceful reign, he was
not
the
problem
king
with this,
who
of
would
course,
rule
is that it
forever.
means that certain people had to have sex with other people at a very specific time to produce offspring.
Contaminate Jehovah through his prophets provided specific details regarding of the 70 details and made a startling Perry.
Yeah, okay, we saw a clip from the
give
movie.
Birth to a son.
I want to get
Jehovah
ahead
God
to, first of all, him really unlocking this box because it's amazing. Mary, blah, blah, blah. May he perhaps be the Christ. Come on. Hey!
Oh, there we go.
Oh.
And here's where I keep
Why
my
is it being
cocaine.
weird? Oh, my mouth's got all fucked up for a second.
Whose box is this? Like, who had this?
Yeah. It's like a cigar box.
Yeah.
Humble Jews readily responded to Jesus' teachings
Wasn't
and
ready
ministry.
for that to be the thing he said.
But there were many more details about the sacred secret yet to be revealed, like the many facets of a beautiful crystal.
I want him to just hold it and like just kind of get swept up in it, like Abu finding
like
the
Gollum.
gem.
Like Gollum starts stroking it. My precious.
Yes. Precious. The many facets.
During his ministry, Jesus himself identified the serpent.
Oh my God. Okay. So I just wanted to see that amazing diamond. I think we get it. God is creating lore for us, and we are now in a big ARG. Where we'll get to find out the big twist at the season finale.
Isn't the fun of some mysteries to figure it out for yourself? Is it fun for a mystery to be uttered and then you have to wait for somebody else to come by and give you the answer? And then you're told then you were told that you were incapable of coming to the answers on your own. You needed that person to tell you the answers because you're just...
Are these YouTubers trying to solve lore modern day prophets? Because they're like, I have figured out the truth. Okay, so let's see that. I don't remember if there's anything going on
in the following
here
report,
that's worth watching.
We'll see how Jehovah has blessed this work.
How Jehovah has blessed.
I love to preach. I love to talk about Jehovah. Whenever I'd read the experiences of pioneers and missionaries in the yearbooks, I wanted to feel the same joy and the same feeling that they had. When I heard about the announcement about the campaign, I knew that that was my chance.
To do
the first
free
challenge
labor.
was the pressure I got from others. Why go somewhere so far? You could use that money to travel somewhere more beautiful. You could even travel to another country. These types of comments did affect me a bit. Other times it was more a question of finances. I once had to decide whether I would accept an opportunity to work at a good job in the public sector or whether to turn that opportunity down.
What do you think she's going to choose, Eric? A good job. The choice is accept a good job or presumably don't and not have a good job.
Yeah, because if you make any decisions that are like kind of like sane and logical for the world you live in, Jehovah will not bless you. You need to make the decisions that go against your well-being, because if you do that, then you're placing your trust in Jehovah, and then he will bless you. But those blessings usually come in the form of handouts from others in the congregation or similar things like charity, essentially, or barely just making ends meet. And that's like stuff like this kind of stuff really breaks my heart. And I'm being sincere here. Like, this stuff really breaks my heart because I see a lot of myself in her, because when I was young, I gave up opportunities. I gave up, college earlier in my career. I gave up building security and navigating the world in a way where I won't be a burden onto others. I know a lot of witnesses, and I love my dad, but my dad's one of them, where they didn't plan for the future, no retirement, no social security investment, and now other people have to take care of them. Like, my dad lives right next door, and I basically pay his bills and everything to keep him alive and everything like that, because he operated most of his life. Thankfully, he's deconverted now too, as of a few years ago. But
That's
he
awesome.
he has no means to support himself. And if I wasn't here, it would fall to my little brother, and my little brother wasn't there, then my dad would be destitute. So, but like, it just, like I said, stuff like this just breaks my heart, because I see myself in this young woman back when I was young. And it's like, you're missing opportunities. You're missing opportunities at career, at social growth, at finding love and understanding yourself and figuring out who you are and how you want to navigate the world. And it's just crap like this just robs young people of that.
Yeah. It's one of the things that makes me most upset is stuff like this that reinforces you should give up your dreams, because, you know, I had the same experience, gave up opportunities that now, and you know what I felt at the time is that it didn't actually feel good. I felt like, boy, I hope this. I hope I feel that joy eventually that people are talking about, but I kind of feel like I don't. Maybe I just haven't given up enough stuff yet.
You're obviously not doing enough. I mean, you're obviously not doing enough. If you feel that way, you're not doing enough. You have the wrong mindset. You aren't praying enough. Have you read your Bible today? Like,
right. Are you secretly sinning? You know,
turn up that pressure and just really, it's abuse. It's emotional and mental abuse, subjecting people.
Yes. I think that's such a good point, that like there must be something that you're doing to not be experiencing that joy. It's always your fault.
Yeah, the problem is
joy is this objective thing that exists that you can be imparted if you do the right things.
The problem is always you, not the promises we gave you. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. You can do all this stuff and you'll be super happy if you're perfect, which you can't be and aren't.
I'm heartened though, because what's the witness retention? What's the retention rate among the witnesses these days? Like 30%, 33%?
Oh, it's bad. Yeah. I think
so,
it's something like 1 in 3 people leave, right?
I think it's like 2 in 3. I think only 1 in 3. I think 1 in 3 people stay, and 2 out of 3 people leave.
That might be it. Yeah.
So I think odds are on this girl's side. Odds are on her side that she's going to wake up. So
I know, and I think about that. It's kind of the difference maybe between like faith and hope, because like I do hope that my parents wake up someday, and I think that there's a statistical probability that they do. They obviously never thought I would be that person, and a lot of my friends didn't. I didn't think I would be that kind of person, and so you never know. I do, boy, if anybody who's ever been in a video wants to talk to me on stream, please do. It seems crazy that we haven't had more people who've been in videos come out and then make a video and be like, that's me. It just feels like that must happen.
That would be a good opportunity. Like if somebody was in one of these videos and you're out now and you really want to, like, you know, I don't know, therapy, like confront it and deal with it, we can make our own video over here and we can just lampoon the previous video, and it can be like your redemption, I guess, you know, like
that's right. Oh yeah, we'll make you look good. We're not going to make fun of you, just like we're not making fun of this person.
I knew this experience would be life-changing.
I've never been mean to anybody in these videos on this program.
Some who had never heard Jehovah's name, or who didn't even know what a Bible was. One experience that stuck with me.
Gee, I wonder if that's why you had more success.
And then her eyes just beamed when she understood that it was a message from God to her personally.
So right here, this is the nothing wrong with. I mean, obviously, you know, people. Let's take this at face value. Okay, she's out in rural environments, kind of out in the wilds, finding just people scattered away from civilization, probably poor education. They don't know things like, you know, epistemology and logic and philosophy and stuff, and that's fine. You don't need to know all those things. But she basically just said, I went up to a person who never heard what the Bible was. Let's assume that's true. And I told this person that the Bible is the word of God, and their eyes lit up. Like like, what if a Muslim got to that person first and says, here's the Quran, this is the word of God? Would their eyes have lit up in the same way for a completely different religion? Like, what kind of, this is not a process to get people to honestly like think of things. It's just basically, hey, the Bible's God's word. Oh, you accept it? Okay, we can have a study. Whoa. Oh, you reject it? Okay, I'm gonna go away. Like this is the type of logic or lack of it that they're propping up and going, this is so great. Like, this person just unequivocally accepted our claim, and now they're one of us. Yeah, that's
and it's taking advantage of a lack of knowledge. Like, they don't have a pre-existing, if they don't have any kind of pre-existing opinion on the Bible, of course you can then project whatever kind of rosy picture you want on it, especially if the person is not in a position themselves where they can confidently read the Bible. Maybe the Bible, if it's even in their native language, it's written in a way that's kind of hard to understand. It's not written as simply as the publications, obviously. So you're not really like, depending on the person's like literacy levels, you're not even really selling them on the Bible. You are selling them on you being an interpreter of the Bible. And they might never read the source text, really, like from beginning to end. They're only getting your narrative version of it.
And it's basically, to loop it back into Flegel earlier, it's like, this is God's word. It's full of secrets, but don't worry. I can give you the answers because this guy gave me the answers. It's like it's like a chain of trust. Yeah. Oh man. So bad.
Yeah. No, it's very manipulative.
And then they scratch their heads and go, why are we losing so many people? Because it's like building a house on sand.
There's a Bible student who is indigenous, and whenever you talk about Jehovah, her eyes always light up.
Oh.
She always asks.
I don't remember the name of the
we were studying over the public telephone
Savior?
because she lives in a village that's about 5 days journey away.
White Savior?
But even though it was challenging,
I think it was called White Savior.
Oh, White Savior.
I don't remember if that was the name of it, but there is this documentary, I think it's on HBO, that was really,
Savior Complex?
Savior Complex, maybe. It was about this like white woman who went into did missionary work, had a Savior Complex, and
Yep. Savior Complex, Christian missionary, accused of playing doctor with the lives of Ugandan children.
Yeah, it's one of the most horrifying stories you'll ever hear. She basically convinced herself that she was a miracle healer, prevented these people from getting actual good health care because she thought she was chosen by God. Like, it's actually too... I almost couldn't finish it because it was so horrifying. But some justice was done, so that's good. And that's an extreme scenario. But it's not that different if you are going in somewhere and telling them, if you need a blood transfusion, you can't take it, and your children can't take it, and death would be a preferable option.
Yep.
It's not that different.
Yeah, it's going in and cutting these people off from things that can make them happy and save their lives. Like you mentioned, the blood transfusions, that's like literal saving of the life. But these missionaries are also going in there to eventually convince them to cut off association with non-believers. They're going in there to say to individuals, stop going to college, stop studying and building up things for this world, because this world's going to go away for a new world that was promised to me by, Gage Flegel. Like it's you're going in, these people are going in there and unknowingly, like they're not acting out of malice. They're true believers as well. So it's like, you can't like blame them and call them bad people because they're just doing what they think is right. But they really are they're just swooping in there and just cutting these people off from things that they need to have a happy, fulfilling life.
Yeah, victims of victims, Ray France called it. That's just kind of victims all the way down is basically what it is. Just people passing on this generational trauma. And there's one other thing I was going to say, but I'm sure it'll come back.
Sometimes up to 20 people would walk into the Kingdom Hall.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned about how they isolate people from their family. And my uncle has been a missionary in Africa for decades now. He used to be in Cameroon. I think he's in Gabon now, maybe not. He's been married for probably the past 10 years or so. And so whenever he would come back, we would, ask for all his encouraging ministry stories, which now I think is very cringe to reflect on, because it's very insulting the way, they talk about the people who have been taken advantage of by them. But a very common occurrence was that people would be kicked out of their tribe and their family because they wouldn't take part in certain rituals anymore, like just these kind of things that they were told had pagan or satanic origins. Now they're not allowed to do it, and so they get kicked out of the tribe, like disowned, cut off of their family inheritance, like shunned. And of course the witnesses view this as like, oh wow, how horrible Satan's world is. And it's like, you introduced this problem to them, and if they ever leave, you're going to do the same shit to them.
I can imagine, that problem that would probably be way more frequent in countries that are not predominantly Christian. Whatever other religions could be there, that's going to be much more at odds than, let's say the person's Catholic and they're converting to JW. Like, obviously, some changes have to be made, but it's a very minor shift on a few beliefs to come in alignment with the JWs. But if you're coming from, some religion that has no Christian origins, or Jewish origins, then yeah, you're gonna have a lot more opportunity to have like conflict there. It's gonna be, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, no, well said.
Bring a Bible, a phone, and a tablet, and I would pass them around and try to help them. There's no doubt that having these experiences was well worth it. I know that participating in this campaign...
There is no doubt that it is well worth it.
I started to truly see Jehovah as a real friend. And it was also wonderful to spend time with a variety of brothers and sisters during the campaign. It helped me mature spiritually. I planned to go for a month and ended up staying there for 5 years. If I could, I'd do it all over again.
Well, what else are they going to say? If they didn't have a good experience, they would have put them on the show.
I want these 5 years back. It's like you're never going to hear that in these videos.
I regret it strongly and aggressively. Doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Oh, man. In fact, I just realized, too, like, thankfully, I don't think I have no idea if I brought anybody into, quote unquote, the truth. I definitely had studies, and I definitely, I had a couple school friends back when I was like in my elementary school days, where I had studies with, and I had some studies as a regular pioneer. I'm not sure if anybody ever like made it all the way in thanks to my efforts. So I kind of have like a clear conscience on this side of the fence going, okay, I'm out. I don't think I stumbled anybody into the witnesses, but can you imagine if you were like super duper, like you're just a born salesman, and you were like a superstar witness. You brought multiple people into the organization, and then you leave. And then you look back and go, oh God, I condemned all these people to a false belief. What kind of kind of guilt might that generate? I've just never really thought about that. Anybody out there is like a superstar witness, I know you're out. Let us know. Like, what are your feelings about that? Obviously, you didn't know at the time. You did what you thought was right. But looking back and recontextualizing, I imagine those feelings would change once you realize what exactly you did to those people unknowingly.
Yeah, that's something that's really like, I feel pretty lucky that I didn't have that experience too. Like, Natalie says that she was a superstar. Damn, I'm sorry to hear that. You should, let us know some of your experiences with that, because that's really interesting. I think I've talked before to you, like the only person I ever really even had a progressive study with was somebody who was raised as a witness, and it was like handed off to me by somebody who had started the study, and then I didn't see it through because then I got disfellowshipped and all that. So
Three people dunked. Oh, hey,
you better look out though. You better look out, Eric. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we need to be very careful in your choice of words when speaking about Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah will show the way he doesn't appreciate false witnessing.
Yeah. Is one of the ways he shows us capitalized messages in YouTube?
Be very careful in your word of the choice. I like false witnessing. Okay. Well, tell us what's up. Shannon Janika Lucas? Janika? Okay, so that was that little part. There's something that... oh, God, there's more of this. I wanted to skim past some of this. Okay, this interview... Yeah, let's watch this. There was one where they start talking about a guy who studied, like, the Beliefs Clarified section, which is kind of their internal log of the time that they've changed doctrines.
Following interview.
I hated the world situation. There was so much suffering. And I always had so many questions. Why are we here?
Wow, look how sad her life was. She couldn't even turn on the lights.
Is there really a God? Could he allow all of this? So I opened the window and I stuck my head out and I said, if you're there,
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
I was raised in a religious Jewish family in the Bronx. My parents viewed money as security, and they worked 7 days a week.
I don't like this. I do not like... This has come up a couple times. They've got something in the convention, too, that I haven't, like, done anything with. But there's, like, a similar story on the convention, like one of these pre-recorded interviews, and it's, like... She was a Jewish woman who was converted to Jehovah's Witnesses, and they seem to take like extra pride in that in a way that I find really weird. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like it. There's a lot of anti-Semitism ingrained in evangelical Christianity in general.
And so I started using drugs, and I started selling drugs, and I was getting in every kind of trouble.
Everybody who ever
they moved us out
converts
to Long Island,
was into
hoping things would
hardcore
be better.
drugs.
Yep.
But
Was
I
it
would
rock
take a taxi
bottom?
back into New York City every day.
Lived in
But
New
one
York
of
in
the
the
drivers
70s.
was named Joe, and we hit it off, and I wound up marrying him.
Whoa.
My father was so upset.
By the way, that means that they had premarital sex.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get spicy for a second. I guess I don't know that for sure, but I'm just kind of assuming. Oh, wait. No, she said she's pregnant.
I'm pregnant. I said to him, I'm moving out, and he said to me, don't look back because this is final.
Oh, wow. She got
So
shunned. Can you imagine being
Family had disowned
disowned
me.
by your
I was a new mother with a
family?
baby,
While
and I was
pregnant.
really hurting.
While pregnant?
So I remember
Yeah.
one day
I can't imagine that happening to people that I know.
looking out the window and seeing this little old man come up my stairs, and he was carrying a little blue book. And he
Wow,
came to my
a little
door,
guy with
and
a
he
little
wanted 25
book?
cents for that book, The Truth That Leads to Eternal Life.
he like
and I didn't really
a
care about the
leprechaun?
book, but something made me want to give that little old man that quarter. Right away, chapter 4 caught my
could make it
attention,
a
Why We
book.
Grow Old and Die. And I read the entire chapter, and I thought, it just made sense. I can't
Just
wait
made
to
sense.
show
It
this to
just
Joe when he
made
comes home.
sense.
He just lost his temper. He went out of control. He did not want to hear about Jehovah's Witnesses. This is not that important.
Why?
This book was really
Had he
not that
heard
important.
bad
I didn't want it to
things?
begin with. And so I just dropped it in the trash can and thought, that's the end of that. It's gone. But that little-
Oh, now this is good. I think we're hearing basically a miracle story, a modern day miracle.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be good. The stakes have been set. She got a book from Jehovah's Witnesses, thought it was true, and her husband was so mad. Now she'd already been shunned by her family. 'cause the
Immediately
world is so mean.
draws battle lines. That's how
Oh, yeah.
vehemently against the witnesses her husband was.
Yeah,
And
and I think it's
I'm just going to predict that her good behavior and the changes that manifest in her life eventually swayed her husband, and now he's a CEO or full time something. I don't know. That's my guess.
I'm imagining that's true because she said his name and showed a picture, and I do think that if they got divorced, she wouldn't be like, "Yeah, fuck you, Joe. I went on national TV and told you off."
Yeah.
little old man came back with a young sister.
This
Joe was
guy,
there,
wow,
cutting
and he was
wires
with
a
another
knife, and he was not happy
young
to see those
little
people
person?
again. He took that knife and he waved it in front of the sister's face.
Oh,
And he
yeah.
said, I don't want you here at the house.
Oh,
She ran to the
right.
door,
That's
she said,
totally
No problem. I will definitely not be back.
that totally happened.
And they left, and I thought, I really don't think they'll be back. But they did come back, an elderly sister
What?
who had a Jewish background. And I said to her, can you
What's
not take
going
a
on
hint?
with the Jewish part of this story? Are they like implying,
It's
or did
important.
she say that she was Jewish? I already forgot the beginning of
Yeah.
this video. Okay, I'm getting it confused with the convention video.
That I
which
am
is
not
very
interested in
similar.
speaking with you. And she said, I get that. I get that, but I really would love to ask you just one question. I thought, okay, there's no harm in letting her ask me one
and this
question.
is the question that blew her mind.
She opened up the Green Bible to the cover page where it has the Tetragrammaton, Jehovah's name in Hebrew. And she said, will you just say this name for me? I thought to myself, I'm not going to say that name. Jewish people don't say that name. I have never, ever said that name.
This
But
story is so
finally,
awful.
I did. I said Jehovah. For the very first time, I said the name Jehovah. And I was like, so shocked. You know, I was just waiting for something terrible to happen. And then she
Why would you think that?
Yeah.
Okay, every part
Yeah.
of this story sucks.
Yeah.
They
Why would you
forced
think that?
this. They forced this Jewish woman. She said, "No, I don't want to do that. I'm Jewish, and we don't say that name." And the witness is like, "No, but do it though. What are you, chicken?" And so she says it, and then it's like, "Whoa! I thought I was going to be killed immediately for saying it." And it's like, why did you think that? Like in the Genesis account, God says that you'll be killed in that very day, and then he's like, "Well, just kidding. Actually, I meant like 1,000 years from now."
And it's this story is great because there's no logic, there's no reason behind this. It's just I felt a rush from doing something that was taboo.
Yeah.
That is her starting position. And I've said it before, your starting position doesn't really matter. It really matters what you picked up afterwards to get to where you are. Because my starting position when I deconverted was basically intuition, emotion, and a whole lot of doubt. I didn't have I didn't even know like what a fallacy was. I didn't even know what epistemology was. I never read any philosophy or logic. So I don't fault her.
Still haven't. I never will.
There you go. And that's fine too. But like the starting position's fine, but this is not something you should be propping up as. This was just this amazing starting point. I felt this rush at doing something that was taboo. Like, can you imagine if I came in and I said, "Hey, when I started deconverting, the first thing I did was I got drunk because I never got drunk before." Like that wouldn't be at all impressive to anybody. And same thing on this side. Like, why are we even talking about this?
Yeah. I find this story is kind of a quintessential Watchtower story, but one thing that struck me watching it was I don't think that this, a very under-remarked problem within Jehovah's Witnesses is that they send their members out into circumstances where people might come at them with knives or guns. When I grew up, when I was in the country growing up, that was an experience that would happen sometimes. People would come out with their shotguns and stuff, and that was common in Chillicothe, Ohio, and other rural areas. And
gotta
this
protect,
person
gotta
had
protect my land. Yeah, go ahead.
That's right. Yeah. It's like in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Are you from the bank? Papa says I can shoot fellows from the bank. That was kind of the way it was. And it's this is not a cool story at all. This is witnesses, they don't realize that the Spirit is not actually guiding them. They're just being sent by this publishing company to try and, boost their numbers a little bit, do free labor. And I am kind of surprised that we haven't heard more stories of actual deaths happening in the ministry for reasons
it happens.
like that.
Yeah.
Then again, I've never actually looked into it.
I know some individuals getting mauled by dogs. Man. Getting killed at the doorstep because they just happened to knock on the door of somebody who was mentally ill and was armed and was very angry, and these things happen. But yeah, you won't hear about it. You only hear about these stories where obviously angelic protection prevailed because they won't tell you otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. And this also results in this thing that Jehovah's Witnesses love, which is that the name Jehovah is just kind of magic, and just saying
powerful
it is amazing. And as soon as somebody learns it from the first time, it they just know it's true. And if demons are haunting you and you say it, that's that alone will expel the demons. It's just magic.
She told me that the name Jehovah was in the Bible about 7,000 times.
So she immediately told you that you said it wrong.
I went and got out my Hebrew Bible.
Yeah, wrong.
And I was going to look for that name, Jehovah, and circle it if it was there. So I started to do that. I went through
this
the first
doesn't have
page,
anything
the
to
second
do with
page,
whether or not
and
the
I
religion
realized
is
as I
true,
flipped
by
through
the
the
way.
Bible,
Yeah.
it's everywhere. The name Jehovah was everywhere. I thought, I have got to share this with Joe. And Joe was really impressed. He was really softening.
Exactly.
It made a difference. A week later, she comes back because she wanted to show me a prophecy in the Hebrew scriptures in Daniel chapter 9. She called it the 70 weeks of years prophecy. And for the first time, I could see that there was a real answer to when the Messiah would come and what would be the results on the earth. Seeing those prophecies really motivated me to want to know more. I thought to myself, if all of these prophecies are from God and he's fulfilling all of them, what other prophecies are there? What other ones?
Well, that's quite a premise.
Yeah, exactly. Massive assumptions built into this question. Yeah. If then,
unbelievable.
If all these prophecies are true, then how can I take advantage of this? But it's massive assumptions in there. Obviously, she's accepting the Bible uncritically.
It strikes me as a somewhat incurious person.
Yeah, and this is something when I speak to witnesses on occasion, I like bringing up the synoptic problem, which if people in the audience don't know what that is, the synoptic problem is we have very strong evidence that Matthew and Luke copied Mark, or Matthew, Luke, and Mark copied some external source, which is a hypothetical source called Q. You can read up on it. Synoptic problem. There's evidence of copying fatigue within these books. We have clear evidence that Matthew didn't write Matthew, Mark didn't write Mark, Luke didn't write Luke. So if that's the case, then how can the prophecies and the things in these books be trusted? Because this lady here, she's operating off the assumption that they are true, and those are indeed prophecies, when we actually have clear evidence that the Gospels aren't quite what they show themselves, aren't quite what they are at a cursory glance. Which is my favorite way of attacking these things, because this is it's the Gospels are the core of Christianity, so you're going straight for the heart when you are talking about these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but
I think another thing that's just surprising to witnesses specifically is that you think that you just have no reason to doubt that you're being given accurate information about when the Gospels were written and stuff. Watchtower's little Bible encyclopedias that they publish and the introductions to their Bible, it's all wrong. It's all this kind of apologetic view of a timeline of the gospel. They're using the most flattering liberal estimates for like how close to Jesus' death it was written, and
Yep.
you know, waving away all the reasons why it doesn't actually make sense that they could have even been written that close to the time when he died. Like, they just dismiss all these problems, and because it's really the only source that you're supposed to trust, you don't even have it in your head that there might be a completely different consensus, even among religious scholars, like, you know, Bible scholars who are Christian, would
I think
scoff at Watchtower there.
I think one example, I think Dale Allison, who's a Christian biblical scholar, I think he is on the page of, the Gospels weren't written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We don't know who wrote them. They're anonymously written. And anybody in the audience who is thinking about this, like, oh, that can't be true. Like, I accepted so many claims from Watchtower when I was a kid, and you just internalize them and accept them without actually like justifying them. And if you want to put that to the test, just take a simple question. Just ask yourself, how do I know Matthew wrote Matthew? And then go try to find out. Like, look in publications, look in publications outside the Watchtower, like, you know, Bible scholars. Go out there and try to justify to me that Matthew wrote Matthew, because I don't think it happened. I don't think Matthew wrote Matthew. I think somebody else wrote that. So if you have a way of determining Matthew wrote Matthew, I would love to see that, because nowhere in the book does it say my name is Matthew and these are the things I saw. It was written 1,000 miles away from the location of the events, 3 or 4 decades later, in a completely different language. Like, we have strong evidence that this illiterate fisherman, I think Matthew was a fisherman, this illiterate guy did not write this book in Greek 1,000 miles away, while also copying a book that we reference now as Mark. So it's like, so go out there and just like take that one question. Ask yourself, how do I know Matthew wrote Matthew? And go out and justify it. Give that a try. And then
I also think, like, when accepting apologetic claims, I like to ask people, like, if that was, would you accept this logic for any other thing? Like, if it wasn't something that you already had an emotional investment in, like, would you be satisfied if I gave you that explanation for X, Y, and Z? And I think just, like, kind of testing, like, well, is this acceptable evidence to me? And, like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I just, as a witness, never even thought to ask myself that stuff. And so I find it valuable to do that.
Wonderful things. Do we have to look forward to?
So anyway, this is a very annoying story. Let's skip to, okay, we're really going to skip past this. I really want to,
I want to hear the final, I want to hear the finale where it's like, and now my husband is one of us too. Like,
wait. Oh,
you're right. Be in there. Yeah.
You're right.
It's got to be in there.
Okay, so prophecies.
I want to know more. I thought to myself, if all of these prophecies are from God and he's fulfilling all of them,
we'll skip past the
what other
photo drama
what other wonderful
nonsense.
Things do we have to look forward to?
Despite all my Russell opinions.
My relationship with Jehovah just got better and better. And we were baptized together on December 2nd, 1972.
There you go.
Good call.
Really
there you go. He went from a knife-wielding maniac to a good elder who keeps honorable secrets in the congregation.
And so, you know, like, who keeps honorable secrets? Like the fact that he used to wave knives at people.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, it's just like, it's just sad. It's just sad. And that's all I can say, because I completely lost the thought that was in my brain. Oh no, it died. It died on the vine.
It's okay.
As a person.
My brain is a thought graveyard, so don't worry.
Oh my God, I love that. Okay, so this is bizarre. Here's what I really want to do. I need to make it a point to do. Well, first of all, I thought, oh my God, I have so much more B-roll if I decide to make more trailers for Not a Cult, because Russell, spoiler alert, is important to that story. I think that this nonsense about Russell essentially inventing color film, the Bible students, you know, synchronized sound in color film, I just don't think that's right. I just don't think that's right, and I don't think anybody ever bothers to check this, but I want to. But I always forget, as evidenced by now, when I clearly haven't done it.
1966, we released...
I'm obsessed with this image, though. It's very creepy, the way it's shot. I think Heritage is this thing... I think we watched it a few weeks ago. This is like the weird 1960s one. Yes. So if you want to watch this, I think it's on the Sunday Service channel. We actually watched this bizarre 60s film where they're like, here's little Jimmy and his parents eating a quiet dinner and thinking about Jesus Christ. Or something like that. So yeah, it's like a history of all of their multimedia, which I personally find interesting, but not necessary. Now, the point of it that I would like to get your comment on, sir.
Jehovah has always understood the power of visuals. He gave the prophets visions. And now we have the technology that combines visual power and emotional impact. Digital technology continues to change.
So that's what they're saying. Jehovah understands visual power. We don't get visions anymore, but we do get JW broadcasting in 720p around the globe.
Isn't that his admission, though, that the prophecies and passages in the Bible don't have emotional punch, and they have to come in here with their studio to give it some like pizzazz, like gotta strengthen it.
Yeah.
Really make you really punch you in the emotions, so you get you motivated to talk to your knife wielding husband and convert.
Yes. Fascinating.
But our goal has not to reach the heart. True Christians cherish
not
the
the
truth
brain.
that this
Gotta
wicked
reach
world
the
will
heart.
soon end.
No, don't reach
But
the
what are
brain.
the pitfalls of serving Jehovah with a date in mind?
Oh, this is infuriating. This is so fucking infuriating. What's the problem with serving Jehovah with a date in mind? Now, I don't actually know that we really need to watch this. It's really triggering, and I don't know. We can. I don't want to keep you for too terribly long.
No, that's fine. I got all afternoon. Yeah, what's the problem with keeping dates in mind? Well, that means that the governing body would be held to their promises. We can't have
that. Yes. Good. That's exactly right. Like, and like this is just this fundamentally gaslighting point that they make. Like, on one hand, necessary to being a Jehovah's Witness is going door to door. Mm-hmm. And you are doing that because the end is coming, and you have to try and bring people onto the ark before the flood comes, metaphorically speaking, because the end is coming any day, and it will come like a thief in the night. So you are serving with a date in mind because the date is near. But also, are you serving with a date in mind? That's a problem. You're supposed to just knock on doors because we told you to, not because Armageddon is coming soon, because everybody in our organization who ever thought that was wrong. So it's just kind of like this impossible mental space to exist in. You're holding two contradictory ideas in your head at the same time. Oh, by the way, Jenny said color film was being tested as early as 1902/3. His photodrama was in 1914.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, okay. I actually missed that. So they're admitting that a lot of the video footage was purchased from outside sources.
So they just grabbed their own B-roll and just started using it.
Yeah, it's something that, like, we've pointed out on streams before, that, like, if you look at the credits at their little copyright screen at the end of all their videos, you can see where they cite the stock footage that they're buying. But that is a problem for them a little bit because, well, why does Jehovah need you, first of all? Because apparently a lot of the footage exists already from other worldly people. Why is it, like, when they're depicting paradise, they're buying footage of real paradise that exists right now that other people have filmed? Like, you can go there. You could go see these beautiful places. But you're too busy being a Jehovah's Witness.
Dramatization, let's see how a Christian couple is lovingly helped to adjust their mindset.
This is so gross. I might go full Dilanti on this.
I've got the news.
I forgot that we were going fast.
How do you feel
kind of caught me
about
off
moving
guard.
to the South Congregation?
Why the South Congregation? We're not.
Okay. So I might explain a little bit of this for some viewers. So they're supposed to, the context is supposed to be like they're looking at the hall, they see another family that has kids, and they're clearly jealous. Mm-hmm. And then it would seem this happened off screen, but they have been reassigned perhaps by the circuit overseer to a different congregation.
Yeah.
For reasons I'll probably get into, but that can just happen. Your existence is so tumultuous that, like, at any point you can be told you just have to move somewhere else, and you would just kind of have to do it. Otherwise, you're not really serving Jehovah.
The way that probably went down too was the way that went down too is that the probably what presiding overseer, one of the elders, told him and he's like, you're going to the South congregation, and now he has to tell her.
Yes.
And instead of framing it as we were told to go here, he's going, what would you think about? You know, I can see I can see being tactful and stuff like that, but really it's a disingenuous question because it doesn't matter how she feels about it. It's going to happen. So it's like, trying to frame it as, I mean, let's say I was a witness and I was a husband, I was in that position. That's probably exactly how I would handle it. But really the underlying thing here is that he's been commanded to go take his wife and to go to this congregation. And now she has to follow too, despite whatever she feels. And obviously any resistance is just right out. You're in the wrong mindset. This whole Fiegel just said that this whole story is about how they changed their mindset about these things. So gonna make another prediction here. She will eventually come around to moving to the congregation, talk about how it was such a big blessing. And I got a feeling that they're not going to have kids because kids get in the way of ministry. That's going to be my
Oh boy.
And they're happy. And they changed their mindset and they're happy about it. They're happy about not having kids.
I can't imagine something like that happening on JW Broadcasting, but
that's my prophecy.
We'll see, sir.
Yeah.
You might have gifts of prophecy if that
I might have gifts of prophecy. I might have gifts of prophecy and not just recognizing repeating patterns in the crap these guys.
That's all I do on this channel. Okay. This is a real problem, you know. The people put off having kids because they think the end is coming.
Yeah.
And then they start to have regrets about their life. So they're kind of addressing in this fictional scenario so that they conveniently don't have to talk to any of their members who actually had this problem, which might be emotionally difficult.
Yeah. Why deal with them on a person-to-person basis when you can just show them in a video how they should behave? Like there's no,
and I think, yes, exactly.
It's very efficient.
And I think it's always worth asking. Like when they do these fictionalized scenarios about something that is very common, why are they fictionalizing it as opposed to interviewing a real person? Because when they can do that, they do. And in this case, I think it's because that conversation wouldn't go the way they want it to go. There might be regrets. It would not be as clear cut. It might be as sad, like, well, we just really hope Jehovah's going to work it out in the new system, but we're pretty sad. And that doesn't look as good on camera.
Yeah. I like Bear Woody's comment. She does have that. Did we forget to take the garbage out? Oh God, that fish is still in there.
Well, listen, Ron, we're not here to watch the video. We're here to mostly talk over it for 20 minutes at a time. That's what we do.
Territory.
It's twice as far. And it feels like...
Hey. Do you think that in the 70s, were people calling this guy a serial killer for having these glasses? Or was it just a normal fucking kind of glasses to have? I don't like the...
Honestly, you know what screams serial killer? That wide tie. Look how wide that thing is.
That's what I'm saying.
That's like 6 inches at the bottom.
These Jeffrey Dahmer comments get on my nerves, and I just want to say, listen, that's what I'm going just for 70s, generically. Hey, by the way, thanks to Mr. Shimp for a $4 super sticker.
Hey, there you go.
This is the 90s, Jake. Yeah, I know. But for the Jehovah's Witnesses, that was the 70s. You don't understand. Fashion-wise.
You know what? I just realized I still have all my ties from back when I was like a witness. Like all my ties. Even back when I was a teenager. I've got a lot of them. Yeah, those like super wide 90s ties. I think I have a couple ties with like Garfield on them, which I'm surprised I got away with wearing them at the Kingdom Hall, but yeah, I still have my ties.
Oh, I would have judged you hardcore if you, because I remember people doing that. Yeah. Oh, wow, I'm getting called out. I did forget this was the 90s, but in my defense, I just forgot that and wanted to make a snarky point and got in over my head.
The wrong time with everything happening in the congregation.
Throughout this, it's interesting that it doesn't seem to them like saying no is an option.
Just ask if we'd be willing.
I'm tired.
Well, we can talk about it tomorrow when you...
No,
They're
I'm tired of
not
everything.
similar to my glasses.
Starting over, making changes, this whole system. We've always been happy to do what Jehovah's asked.
Okay, I find... Well, wait, let me say this.
I never thought this system would drag on for so long.
Yeah, okay. Throughout, like, in all of these examples, they're never saying that, like, I'm starting to think that God doesn't exist. Because if God existed, why, they never do that. It's like, we've done so much for Jehovah. Why is he doing, like, they always just take it as a baseline. Well, obviously we believe that Jehovah exists, but why is Jehovah asking this of us?
Yeah. It makes no sense. Like we just moved it. We have to break our lease, and now we're gonna take a hit on the security deposit. Yeah. But anyway, Ron, you are right. Earlier, my prophecy failed, so I'm beginning to doubt just slightly that I'm a prophet. There's a small.
I put so much emotional stock in you being a prophet.
There's a small dent in that armor now, so unfortunately, call me out. Thank you, appreciate that. But I have a feeling my other prophecies are actually. I'll find a way to recontextualize what I said so that it actually is true. Just give me a few minutes. It might take me a little
bit. See, I mean, that's what I did. I just immediately pivoted and was like, no, I'm actually secretly right, and you just don't understand why.
Yeah.
Jenny says, my non-JW sister warned me against men who wore cartoon character clothing, specifically ties.
I might have been a little dumber. I might have had some Dahmer vibes when I was a witness. Like,
see, it's not just about the glasses. It's not just about the glasses. Thank you to Tara Johnson, by the way, for the $5 super chat. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you for enabling us.
Yes, they belong in a museum. We should. Oh boy, you know what? Like an ex-JW take on a JW museum would be really interesting.
Here's all the relics that they don't want you to see.
I don't think either of us ever imagined would be where we are now.
Now, he took his glasses off, so it's getting serious. Mm-hmm. And I haven't, so as far as I'm concerned, this broadcast reaction has not gotten serious
tonight,
yet.
Holding Tulani. It's just strange to think that if things had been different,
then
I'd
things would be
probably have
different.
A family now.
Yep. TikTok. Biological clock is ticking.
Oof.
It sucks. I feel for her because this actually that's my sister-in-law is that way. I think she wants children, but she's not getting them because it's the end days. It's been the end. Like I think she's approaching 45. Her husband's like over 50. The entire lives thinking the world's going to end any day now. Can't have any kids, and now they're probably past the window to do that, and now they're locked in, and the world hasn't ended yet. All these things, all these missed opportunities I mentioned before. It's like it really is heartbreaking when you think about it.
Interesting comment from our friend Shannon Jenica Lucas, who said, "You guys are bad news. Words come out of your mouths twisted. I'm all set here. Goodbye." Twisted. Blank check fans. That's a reference to that podcast. Yeah. Well, I don't know what we said that was wrong or twisted.
Yeah, I don't know. We're here,
but they're out of here. It's
a lot of the stuff here we're doing is just poking fun and just having some levity with the whole thing. We are pointing out, tactics that the organization uses. We are pointing out the assumptions that the Jehovah's Witnesses uses when it comes to dealing with the Bible and prophecy and such. Like, if anything that we're saying is incorrect, feel free to point it out. Not just a general, what you're saying is twisted. Give me something solid, concrete. What am I saying that's so wrong? Maybe talk about it. Yeah.
And I say wrong stuff all the time. I've gotten entire videos wrong. I got wrong the very decade of this demonstration, even though it showed it on the screen.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm capable of being wrong.
I uttered a false prophecy just a few minutes ago.
We falsely prophesied. I mean, I'm kind of coming around to that commenter. Honestly, they might have a point. No, I wanted to... I'm just shouting this out because amazingly, I think maybe every hall in the 90s had this person because this sounds like a person in my hall. I remember his name was... Wait, he's got to be dead. His name was Bob McIntyre, and listen, that guy's long dead.
That's a very generic...
He's dead rotting in the ground. But he looked like if Mr. Potato Head was a serial killer... and he spoke Klingon and had the Klingon dictionary in his home, and that's fine, But he also, it was very similar to how Jenny Bloom was describing this person. Her advice was spot on. A weirdo bro my age wore a Tasmanian devil tie. Check. Dahmer glasses in the mid-2000s. He had, similar glasses. I mean, he's not a serial killer, but he was Napoleon Dynamite incarnate. Well, I guess my guy wasn't Napoleon Dynamite. My guy was Mr. Potato Head, but did the Looney Tune tie thing. And even as a kid, who loved Looney Tunes, I was like, doesn't feel right for the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah.
Is the bell the Salvation Army thing? Oh no, I guess not. It was a school bell.
It's school, yeah.
I was thinking of,
James.
All right, here's the really annoying part.
You getting an early start tonight?
Well, after this, I've got another job. Good thing I'm only 25. So I'm moving to the South Congregation.
Jokes.
We need you there.
But actually, I'm dying of old age.
Yeah.
Well, what are you talking about?
I'm only 25.
I'm always eager to help.
We try our best. But this move?
It is 90s, and I was so wrong.
Okay?
Maybe we're just running out of steam.
Well, you both work very hard.
But work harder anyway.
Yeah, but work harder.
What are you
the
doing?
The problem is you there, buddy.
Could you come over for some dinner?
I understand.
Amazing
I never
music.
planned that I'll be this age in the system. And now look at these wrinkles.
I don't see any wrinkles.
You haven't slowed down a bit.
I have my hard days. But I've learned a long time ago that focusing on when the end will come.
I have this sweater now. I'm certain I've worn it on stream. I've got such a similar outfit.
Yeah, it's very Mr. Rogers' neighborhood sweater.
It is, yeah.
It's just not good. That's what happened to Dorothy, you know. We started planning it right after we got married. We were excited.
Okay, so now, he's going to talk about how we went to where we were asked to go and we didn't have kids. And then they're going to
1976.
Inspired by his example. Oh, hey, well, maybe, yeah, you were right. We just needed some more details. You know, the light got brighter, and now here we are. Now you're right about the 70s.
I was prophesying.
Yeah.
But 76 is a very significant date because it's the year after this failed 1975 prophecy that modern witness leadership, and basically ever since the failed prophecy, have tried to gaslight witnesses and succeeded in saying like, no, that was just people who took our words too far. We don't have to go into it because I think I've talked about it on a stream before, but like they really did like put a little calendar in the Bible and heavily imply that 1975 was going to be the end of the 6,000 days of creation. And yeah,
stay alive to 75, I think was the motto.
Yes, absolutely. Stay alive till 75. JW Facts has a recording of a talk where they say it, and you can find very similar language in their publications.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, I'm going to try and find the picture, but I got these glasses, and this is true, and it's just as cringe, kind of in the opposite direction, but I wanted the glasses that AOC wears, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I saw this picture of her with these glasses. I was like, those glasses look awesome. And I had seen some other people wearing them. And that's what happened. Okay, I genuinely... but now I'm just stuck with these glasses. So it's just kind of this, or contacts. And I always forget to put my contacts in.
Things just kept going.
Things just kept going. And obviously, they're still there talking now in the 90s.
That Armageddon hadn't come. She started doubting it ever would.
1976, a lot of anger. Armageddon's not here yet. Yeah.
She left Jehovah.
Oh, she left Jehovah, and less importantly, me.
That was completely on her. That had nothing to do with the failed promises that the organization had put out at the time. That obviously was 100% on her. She was not strong enough. She didn't, you're not tested beyond what you can bear, but was this a test beyond something that she could bear?
Yeah, like he'll never test you beyond what you can bear, but
yeah.
But it's kind of like a no true Scotsman thing where it's like, well, yeah, you failed the test, which means you weren't really...
Any failure is obviously on you. It's not at all anything other than you. Yeah.
God didn't test you beyond you could bear. You just gave up.
You gave up.
Because the test was too hard.
Which isn't giving up, saying, I can't bear this. Like, does somebody say I'm giving up out of spite? What?
No. By the way, for Ron Pomo, no, I was not making fun of the glasses. I was saying, hey, listen, this guy is wearing glasses that I like, but nobody's calling him Jeffrey Dahmer. That was what I was trying to say. I wasn't making fun of his glasses. I find this so insulting because this is the kind of narrative that I could see them forming now. The last of the last days comment didn't happen until after I was awake, I don't think. But I think a lot of people were fed up by this comment that was made right at the start of the pandemic when Watchtower and everybody shut everything down. And Stephen Lett said, we are in the final part of the last days, shortly before the last day of the last days. And, since then, a lot of people have left and their numbers have been just kind of slowly declining. And
Back in my day, it was basically like, oh, Armageddon's right around the corner, right around the corner, right around the corner.
Yeah.
And then it turned into we've turned the corner. Now we're face to face with it. It's any day now. And that was 25
I haven't heard,
years.
though.
Yeah, that was 25 years ago, when I started hearing that line. And now it's the final part of the final part, last days. It's kind of like that mathematical thought experiment, how you have a distance between two objects, cut that distance in half, then cut that in half, then cut that in half. Just infinitely, and you will never get to your destination. That's what it feels like. You're always inching closer, but you never get there. And
yes,
it's
absolutely
never going to happen, because it's this has been the rhetoric for 150 years for this organization. It's been the rhetoric of Christians for 2,000 years, generation after generation after generation. Yep, going to happen in my lifetime. Yep, anytime now. Yep, got to do all that. It's just a perpetual cycle, and it's really, really sad.
Yeah, and it's all this is that this guy's ex-wife took the organization seriously, took their promises seriously, and really believed it. And when they were revealed to be frauds, had the good sense to be like, well, no, they hyped us up for this, and it was wrong. And if they're going to try and back away from that, that's ridiculous. And yet, still, all these years later, in 2024, they are gaslighting these people who left and saying, no, we never even said that. That was just crazy people who took things too far. Really gross. And now he's perpetuating, like we said earlier, victims of victims. This guy is, pushing his unresolved trauma onto this couple.
Yep.
Make the same mistakes I did, kids.
I'm curious if this is based on a real experience. He said his wife left Jehovah. Did his wife also leave him? Because he looked over like
he
she
did
was
say
like...
that. He said she left Jehovah and me.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha.
Yeah, very sadly.
It was the hardest time of my life. It's true that 2 Peter 3 verse 12 tells us to await and keep close in mind the presence of the day of Jehovah. But we have to be careful not to wait in frustration. I remember how in Jesus' day, many of his disciples stopped following him.
Stay on the watch, prove yourself ready, but also don't wait in expectation.
Yep.
But what did Peter say?
Lord, whom shall we go away to?
For you have sayings of everlasting life. The truth is the truth, even if...
They did accurately say, whom shall we go away to, and not where, but they're just immediately applying it to... And the fact that he said, the truth is the truth, no matter what. No, the truth is the truth, is if it's true.
I've seen that so many times in people when they start doubting their religion. They all ask themselves, well, where will I go? That's not a response to the question or to the questions you're having about the truth of the propositions of the religion. Saying to yourself, I have no place to go. Yeah, it's an emotional aspect of the problem, and it's a very valid aspect to contend with. But that's not something that should stop you from being honest with the questions in front of you. And if you're doubting and you're asking yourself, hey, where do I go? There's nothing out there for me because all people I know are in the witnesses and my family's all in the witnesses. And that's all by design of the organization to keep you there.
Yeah.
And like I said, those are all very valid emotional dilemmas to deal with, but it has no bearing over whether or not the teachings of the religion are true. And if you find yourself saying, well, I'm just going to sit here and believe because I can't afford to not believe, you're not being very rational or honest about it. It's a sad situation, but yeah.
I hear that all the time on your call-in show. A lot of people kind of hit a wall where they're like, yeah, but then what else is there? Like, you don't, if it's not this, then it's nothing. And like it couldn't just be nothing. And this dial says, and I had literally the same exact with my dad. That's what my dad asked me. Well, who does have the truth? And he couldn't believe me when I said nobody. And the way I framed it, like he kind of threw this in my face. One of the last conversations that I had with him. Well, it was the last conversation I had before I was disfellowshipped. Sat by the fire and talked for a while, and he was like, because you whatever you think you found truth somewhere else. And I was like, yeah, okay, I have. You want to know what it is? It's that there is nobody that has the truth. That's it. There's just one more wrong religion than I thought there was. That's it. It's not that I have the truth. It's just that all religions are wrong, and they cannot, can't allow themselves to understand that.
You can think about it this way too, because you're being fed the false dichotomy of, well, one religion has to be true, and obviously it's ours.
Yes.
If you don't think ours is true, well, obviously none of the other religions are true. So where are you going to find truth? It's very similar. Like, imagine your entire life. Let's take me, for example, from 0 to 25. I was always told that I have $1 million waiting for me in a bank account from this one gentleman. He has $1 million waiting in a bank account. He's going to give it to me one day soon, eventually. It's around the corner. I then realize, hey, I think I've been lied to my entire life by this guy. There isn't that $1 million in there. Imagine if I then immediately say, well, then who has the $1 million for me? There's got to be like, you can see where the logic breaks down there. Like, there is no $1 million somewhere. Most likely not $1 million somewhere. And the same thing with the whole truth thing is like, well, if this religion doesn't have the truth, then what other religion possibly has the truth? And maybe none of them do. It's perfectly logical that none of these religions accurately represent reality. That is an option.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is why I've kind of hit a point where I don't really try and reason like from the Bible. Like, if I think that they're interpreting a verse wrong, I don't really bother with it unless it's something interesting, like their translation is notably different than other translations. But I think we'll see this later in the John Ekran talk, but they're kind of doing it here is like, well, we know there must be a truth, and
we know there must be $1 million. Yeah,
we know there must be $1 million somewhere.
Yeah,
and fuck, I lost it.
Sorry.
No, it's not.
I was interweaving with you. You're like, we're working off each other.
No, it was purely my ADHD. I just felt it slipping from my grasp. I think it's just like they can't really comprehend the idea. They can't concede the premise that maybe nothing is true. Like, it all relies on the fact that this is what it is. That like the Bible points to the fact that there must be one true religion.
Yeah,
like that's how witnesses will portray it if they encounter you in the ministry and they go through their Bible study book with you. It's like the Bible Jesus laid out what true Christianity would look like. So let's look at these qualities. What do you know? This book, published by the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, happens to notice that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society has all the answers. And Mormons do the same thing. Every high control religion does the same thing, where they're like, these are what the standards of the Bible, and wouldn't you know it, we meet the standards. Where you need to get rid of that underlying assumption. And like, maybe read the Bible without any assumptions going into it at all. Just read it as a text.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to mention, is that cults like the Witnesses and other religious organizations, there's a lot of pre-built assumptions into all of their teachings. Like we were going over that earlier about, like who wrote the Gospels. We assumed automatically as witnesses it was Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because that's what the organization told us. That's an assumption, unfounded assumption. And if you drill into that, you can start, chipping away at the foundation of the belief at that point. But the organization takes advantage of those assumptions when you start questioning. And that's one of these strategies here is like, well, then who does have the truth? It's working off the assumption that somebody must have the truth. And that's another thing that you don't necessarily have good confidence or grounding for. So it's like it's an assumption minefield, and any one of these can be pulled out, used against you, and you can sit there and say, oh, wow, that's actually a good question, not realizing that you are making the logical leaps to accept that position before you had justification to do so. And they will do this to you over and over and over again. That's why it's a good motto: question everything. If you are accepting something as fact, look at it and go, why do I think this is a fact? What justification do I have? What support do I have? What evidence do I have? And when you start looking at everything like that, you can cut through a lot of the crap that's thrown your way. Like, if, for instance, when I was starting to think about leaving, my brother would ask me certain questions and stuff along the line of, where would you go? Where would you go? Where are you going to find truth? We're going to find this close-knit society that we have here and all this stuff. And it's like, those are all assumptions. I don't need to have those things, or I don't necessarily think those things exist anymore. Once you can get through all that, it makes it a lot easier, and a lot easier to navigate the flack that you'll get from family and friends as you leave. Yeah,
it's kind of like letting go of the emotional connection you have, just like taking a more dispassionate approach to it.
Yeah.
By the way,
that's another good one.
I just wanted to shout out, Ron Pimo asked why did they set it in 1993? I think I know why. I think it's because that's kind of represents this kind of the median age of a millennial. Like, I was born in 92. and I'm now in my 30s, and I think that's pretty, like, it's kind of right in the middle of the millennial range, and that's who they're losing right now. Like, a lot of it's not like the older folks are slowing down. The Gen X people who were kind of instilled by their parents are hanging on a lot of the times, but it's the millennials and Gen Z who are maybe too young for them to generate nostalgia videos like this about.
That's where the greatest hemorrhage is in their population and their tendencies. And young ones.
Young ones, and it's the people most like the millennial generation is the one most positioned to like take the reins from the current generation. That's supposed to be the plan, is that you just kind of keep on training the next generation. I think that's what it is, but also it could be because they like doing nostalgic videos where they get to show the old publications.
And if it doesn't unfold, how or when?
So basically he's saying the truth isn't the truth. The truth is still the truth, even if it doesn't unfold the way you expect, which is very stupid. So they just keep themselves busy, and it's dumb. But it ends on a cliffhanger. You have to be eager to see what unfolds for James and Linda.
To be continued.
A big TBC, and they... who knows? This is fiction, so anything could happen. Maybe there'll be like a huge explosion in the next episode.
Oh.
A train will like derail and like fly off a cliff. Okay. This is where I want to leave us, is with this John Ekran talk. Do you need to take a break or anything?
I could probably step away for 2 minutes, but I can get right back.
About to say, if we want to take a 2-minute break, now don't touch that dial, anybody, because first of all, your TVs don't have that anymore, and I didn't give you any of those dials that they give people to rate how they feel about presidential candidates during elections. But I made something yesterday that's really dumb. I don't really know why I made it. I've just been chipping away at a YouTube poop, and it's about 4 minutes, and I need to grab a snack and do other things possibly. So I am going to let this play out.
Bio related things.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Nothing weird. We're going to play a video for fun, and I'm not stalling. I know where it is. It's right here.
My fellow Americans here in this stage and watching at home, this moment is not about God, it's about me. My name is JD Hands. JD loves the Lord, ladies and gentlemen. JD is the result of very deep Christian faith. Daddy loves you very much.
You guys, we're gonna chill.
Tonight is a celebration of villains and their victims.
And with God's grace, my children will lay me to rest.
Now, thanks to these policies, growing addiction in towns like mine, fentanyl across the border, but that's Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump.
President Trump
must be stopped at all costs. He was a tyrant. He is not tough. Trump got money from tin-pot dictators across the world. Now consider, prior to running for president, he was $120,000 in debt, and yet a sweetheart named Joe Biden gave my 4-year-old a kiss on the cheek, and then he gave my beautiful wife a kiss on the butt cheek, and he did it because he loves this country. Joe Biden screwed my beautiful wife, Usha, and I'm so grateful for it. An incredible dick and a better country, and of course I'm bi. I've talked a lot about that, but let me tell you, it's pretty awesome. I was lucky. In my life, I had a good husband by my side. She was an old woman who could barely walk, who was known for dealing drugs. I called her Mamaw, the name we hillbillies gave to our Mamaw. Mamaw raised me as her own, Mamaw screwed thousands of other young men my age. Mamaw was in so many ways a cum factory. She loved cum. I'm not kidding. She could make a sailor blush. Now, Now, thanks to money, things worked out for me. When I was in the 4th grade, I did 9/11 with Mammal. Crashed in Wisconsin. New York City. And she said, JD, no one will ever find out about it.
And that's the accomplishment that I'm proudest of.
Semper Fi to my fellow ISIS guy. We need a leader who's in the pocket of big business. We need President JD Hands. You know, one of the things that you hear people say sometimes is that America is in the USA. But America is China. The United States of America is the Chinese Communist nation. Now, I think somehow China and the cartel is the source of America's greatness. I stand here, JD Hands, and of course, Donald J.D. Trump is daddy. Together, we will send our kids to war. We will, in short, make America China again. But never forget that the reason why this absurd Republican Party...
That's beautiful.
Thanks. I just had to show that to people. I had to justify the fact that I made it.
I'm impressed. I've mentioned this before we started the stream, but I've always been impressed by your humor and editing skills. And folks, as a testament to this guy's dedication, he was editing stuff like this up to the moment we hit go live. Like
that's true.
We hopped in the back room. I was like, "Hey Jake, how you doing?" He's like, "I'm doing pretty good. Hold on." I'm like whipping something together, and he's like editing real time what you saw at the beginning of this stream up to the last minute. Like,
yeah,
he's a machine. It's great.
Thank you. I don't know why I do it, but I have found, like, because my ADHD is really bad, and that is a task that when I want to be creative, but I just have a hard time doing anything. Like, I find the kind of, like, granular meticulousness of, like, clipping little words and putting them together very fun. It's like building Legos, but it's like building sentences with people. Oh, little peek behind my art.
It's great.
Yes, so that really had absolutely nothing to do with anything that we're talking about, other than that I made it. So a little palate cleanser. I've always had because I grew up in Ohio, like J.D. Vance, and I heard a lot of people call their grandmas Mama. I always disliked it. No shade, but just for some reason, when I hear adults say it, I'm like, Mama. That's not a word.
I never never knew my grandparents. I never knew either my grandfather.
Your man parents?
Yeah, my man parents. Yeah,
Mama.
I met both of my grandmothers individually like once when I was like super small. I think the only thing I called my Austrian grandmother is Oma. I think it was it.
Oh yeah, that's pretty common.
Yeah, but no, never Mama, Mamu, Mumu. I don't know, never.
Mima and Peepaw like is a real thing.
Mima and Peepaw. There you go.
Growing up, it's incredible.
How do we know that we are practicing true Christianity?
Oh, wait. Let's hear him set this up. Now that I've flushed everybody's brains, at least mine. I was like, wait, what are we talking about? Okay. Now this gets to my favorite part of whenever they play a fictionalized dramatization, which is when they suddenly they shift to just pretending like they're real people. So this is what happens now.
Before it arrives. Tabo also said the truth is the truth. How do we know that we are practicing true Christianity? That's the intriguing topic
like
of this morning
right there.
Presented
Another
by Brother
assumption.
John.
Yep. So this is where we get into Assumption Junction.
That guy looks like Kent Hovind.
Wow, he does.
He totally looks like Kent. I was like, what? Like,
you know what? I have always tried to place who he looks like in this. I gotta say, Jake P. Vance really got me.
That's Kent Hovind's doppelganger.
Yeah, he really is. He's got that evangelical bloodline.
Many years ago, a brother in my congregation asked me to go with him in field service and return on a man who had asked.
I thought about slowing it down, and I realized I can't justify.
Well, it wasn't too long after we were there in his house that it became clear to us that he wasn't so much interested in listening to us as he was to convince us that Jehovah's Witnesses was the wrong religion.
Now, I don't need. Okay, so.
But that's exactly what the witnesses are there to do, except the opposite.
Yeah.
They're there to listen.
You're the one who went to their door, dude.
Oh my god! Like, no.
We knocked on his door. This guy tries to talk to us. Like, we want to hear what he thinks about us. Like, what? Okay.
Sorry, I gotta just drill into this a little bit.
Please do.
Can any witness ever say that I go to a door to have my beliefs challenged. No, they're there to preach. They're there to get somebody to uncritically accept what they're saying. They're not there to be challenged. They're not there for the interaction to go both ways. It's parasocial in a structure. And then he's sitting there complaining that, well, the householder didn't want to play by our rules. The householder wanted to flip the script on us. Zero self-awareness with this guy. Wow.
Oh my God. I've literally never thought about that before, but that is so funny. We would complain about what the householders did. Like, we are the ones who showed up.
No joke. One witness I was out with one time, we preached to a guy at the door, and the guy at the end says, I'll take your book, but here, I got a book to give you back. Like, the guy was very gracious. He listened to us. It was a conversation. He accepted the literature we were presenting. I think it was probably a knowledge book or something. And then he says, I'd like to give you a book back. And my partner says, no, sorry, we can't take that. If you want to give me the book, come find me at my door. But you didn't tell him where he lived or anything like that.
Whoa.
He basically just said, just do what we did and then we'll take the book. Like, basically set up this impossible criteria for accepting any conflicting literature.
Yeah.
And that did raise my eyebrow. I was like, that doesn't feel right.
20-year-old
me, I was like, that doesn't feel right. That feels
No, I love this because I had that at a very young age. It was that book was Dianetics, and Natalie Wood.
Let me tell you about Thetans.
Yes, it was the Freemason Handbook. So what? My experience with that, I was really little, but I had a problem with it too. Obviously, I pushed through it because I was like a little kid, but I think it might have been when I lived in Marysville, out in the country, and I was with my mom, and we had a great conversation. Like, now I was little, so it felt like a really long conversation. Could have been like 10 minutes, but it felt like we were there for a long time, and my mom really connected with this person, and was going to leave her the literature, and the woman said, you know what, can I show you a book too? Here, I'll run in and grab it. And mom tells me, we can't accept when people give us literature. I was like, wait, what, why? And so she kind of explained it, because we knock on everybody's doors, and just as a rule, if we accepted literature from everybody, we would, our cars would be full by the end of the day. And the woman was like, that isn't fair. If you are going to come and try and give me literature and you don't accept mine, that's not fair. And, it ended really bitterly, the conversation, in a way that was upsetting as a kid. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't thought about that until you mentioned that. That was so... It is a weird thing.
It leaves a bad taste in your mouth because you're like,
yeah,
I'm not playing by my own. Make sense. I'm not playing by my own rules. Yeah.
Yes, you're exactly right. You're not playing by your own rules. Thetan the devil. And then you opt in there like a stealth bomber.
Like demons, except in your blood.
So good.
Makes total sense.
That is what Thetans are. It's amazing.
Yeah. But it's okay. But it's okay, folks. If you feel like you have Thetans in your blood, you just go to Scientology. You pay them several $1,000s, and eventually they will teach you how to cope with it.
We know Thetans exist. We know that much. Yeah. And the truth is the truth, no matter how much you think that Xenu is a real
blood exists, so obviously Thetans exist. That's just logic.
Stands to reason. It's reasonable to assume.
And he went on to attack Brother Russell. Charles Taze Russell started your organization.
Oh, fuck. I didn't even get to say the thing I was going to say, which was, okay, so this fucking face, this perfect little... pyramid shape that's being made. Don't be fucking weird about it in the comments, conspiracy theorist people. I'm saying this in the sense of the DreamWorks face, there's a face that Jehovah's Witnesses do. I showed it a lot in the Judicial Committee training videos because it's almost like they train elders to use that face. And so I kind of realized, I think we realized it in the patron-only chat. Here's a plug for Patreon. We reacted to the Gary Bro. I think we reacted to both parts of the Pillow videos last week, the Ralph Walls part and Gary Bro. And Gary Bro has hardened frown lines in the exact shape of the elder face. And so does he, and my dad does. That's the thing that really started to freak me out about it, is my dad, he's done that so much that that's where his crow's feet are and stuff. I guess I can't prove that with science, which means that I have to acknowledge that was a part of Jake's conspiracy.
Welcome, Internet. I'm so happy to share with you this conspiracy theory.
So that's my conspiracy theory, but I kind of think it's true a little bit.
I'm trying to do it and I can't. Maybe
it's hard to do. Like, it actually kind of, I was realizing the same thing. Like, it actually is like, maybe to get him that slanted just right, it's hard to do.
Maybe that's why I failed as a witness. I didn't have the countenance for it.
Oh my God, it is a Tucker Carlson face. You're so right. He does
yeah. That. That's a weird mix of Ken Hovind and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
Ooh, man.
By the way, what I was really trying to get, and I just couldn't quite get it, was at the beginning of this stream when Gage Flegel says, like, greetings, humans. Like, as soon as I had just heard him say greetings, I laughed really hard, and I was like, it sounds like he's a robot. And they say humans so much, and this is like the one broadcast where they didn't say it a lot. So I need to find a better one, because I think there's potential there. Greetings, humans. But this is actually important, what he's saying. He's saying that the householder dared confront them on the fact of Charles Taze Russell, who started their religion. And this is fascinating, how he reasons with this householder.
And he went on to attack Brother Russell. Charles Taze Russell started your organization. And he made accusations about Brother Russell.
He attacked.
This and that,
attacked with a
knife.
knife.
His reasoning was that since Brother Russell
put a pin in that word, by the way.
God could not have used him to start the right religion.
In all these ways. He didn't say what the ways were, now did he? Because the ways might be things like, well, first of all, his numerous failed doomsday predictions, or at least one. I don't know why I said numerous. But the fact that, like, the initial dates that he preached are no longer taught by Jehovah's Witnesses, like the invisible start of Christ's presence, blah, blah, blah.
All the pyramidology stuff.
Pyramidology stuff, which I'm now applying to just their face. So great, I'm doing my part. And then, but that was as a bit. That was as a joke.
That's the sign, the pyramid sign.
The sign on their foreheads. Oh my God,
it's kind of like it's kind of like the fish tattoo, except for witnesses. It's a frowning triangle.
They call it the old purple triangle. And so no, that was in bad taste. So they,
it's all connected though.
It's all connected, man.
Oh man, so many.
And one of the things that is controversial about Charles Taze Russell was the fact that he was guilty of sexual assault, and it was happened in court, and you can read transcripts, and it was reported in the newspaper, and the Watchtower responded, and it's a little lascivious and gross. Ended up resulting in him and his wife getting divorced. A thing
yeah, I remember
that
reading
if
that.
any of these leaders did now, they would be demoted. They would be, or deleted would be their word. But there are a lot of things that Charles Taze Russell did that no modern elder would be able to get away with. I mean, not least of which is starting your own movement based on what you reckon the Bible means when it says stuff.
Just skimming the wiki, there's a thing called miracle wheat.
That's another weird one, yeah. Kind of selling snake oil in the Watchtower.
Sold the wheat for $60 per bushel in 1911. Far above the average cost of wheat at the time. Ooh. You had a little side hustle there.
Yes, I've always meant to look into the miracle wheat thing because it's so bizarre. I think it was even brought up in Crisis of Conscience, but you can see the old advertisements for it. It's really nuts.
I call me crazy, but from what I'm reading here, Charles Taze Russell's motivation was more monetary than anything. But that's just me. Yeah.
I think that's really important, actually. I've got a lot of thoughts on Russell these days, and the thing that... So here's my quick take, since while we're pausing every 2 seconds and talking for 20 minutes. Sorry, people in chat. But the thing that I have kind of been trying to wrestle with since I've left the Witnesses, because I've tried to write a video on Russell for a while, but I couldn't quite find out what the take is on him, because what I found interesting is, like, unlike L. Ron Hubbard and Joseph Smith, who I think are very similar as cult leaders in a lot of ways. But the thing that C.T. Russell didn't have was this kind of guru background. Like, L. Ron Hubbard was a guy who just always told these tall tales about himself and would tell these fish, these long fish stories about his
He's literally
adventures.
a fiction writer, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and he was a fiction writer, and he would, fictionalize his own past, including his military record, and would just, the self-mythologizing of him. And Joseph Smith was the same way, where he had these stories that he would tell about himself, these legends, these self-myth makers. And I always felt like Russell was different there. But what I think the thing about him is he was a salesman. at the age of like 11. He dropped out of school because he was the best salesman that his father had. He was just better at it than the adults who he employed. So he was like a traveling salesman as a preteen, and that was his superpower, you know, was a good salesman. And I think so much, even though so much of the organization has changed, so much of the way it is still the way it is because of Russell. Just the door-to-door salesmanship of it, the kind of corporate-y language, the fact that it feels corporate instead of, you know, like Mormonism feels almost like weird and pagan, like mixed with Christianity, and Scientology is sort of like the human potential movement of the 80s or, you know, and 50s and all that shit kind of baked into it. And I think that Jehovah's Witnesses have the great disappointment plus the like kind of door-to-door salesman boom of that time in human history. And that's kind of my take on Russell that I've been wanting to articulate. I guess I just wanted to get that off my chest. So that was a sidebar. I still need to make a tangent drop, but there you go. That's what that was. So anyway, plenty of reasons to be critical of Russell. But the way that John Ekran frames this, and who knows if this is true, by the way, we can't ask this householder to see if his story is being accurately represented, but John Ekran's like, what the householder was saying is that because Russell did all these things, but we won't say what they were, he could not have been used to start the right religion. And so that is the framing that he has picked, which is he's obviously going to knock down.
Took the opportunity to point out his wrong reasoning. Basically, he was saying that God cannot use imperfect men to do his will.
Basically, he was saying
we apply that to the Bible. Moses failed to credit Jehovah God for the miracle with the water. What are we going to take out the first 5 books of the Bible? David sinned with Bathsheba. We're going to take out most of the Psalms. Peter denied Christ. There goes 1st and 2nd Peter. See, that reasoning really doesn't make sense. Jehovah.
And I want to pause on that fucking face right there, that dumb shit he just said. Good God.
So he's basically saying it's totally within God's power to use imperfect men to do his will. Sure, he's all powerful. Why not? But wouldn't it be more effective to not use somebody who is embroiled in scandal before, like to be a better representative? Like if you truly are interested in maximizing the effect of this movement and maximizing converts and maximizing saving lives, you know, as God's standpoint, he wants to save every life possible. Wouldn't it be better just kind of maybe pick somebody with like a little bit cleaner history? Like maybe somebody who doesn't have scandals behind them. Like, I don't know. Like kind of would make more sense to me.
The Moses momentarily not giving credit for a thing is, you know, not just in my imperfect human mind less bad than sexually assaulting somebody.
Yeah.
You know, that's just a different thing. Only one person was hurt in Moses' scenario, and apparently it was God. He got his little
God's
feelings
pride.
hurt.
Yeah.
God's pride.
Yep.
Pride Rock, and that's why they call it that. Anyway.
Jehovah God does use imperfect people.
But this whole false premise is like, I guess I just have to grant them that this is okay, but like, yeah, okay, let's maybe consider that we should throw out the assumption that the Bible is the inspired word of God. And yes, it was written by imperfect people because God knows that we humans are imperfect, but also his word is perfect. So like, why does it matter? Like, there's just always a way to kind of skip over mistakes. I think what stood out to me about it is just that his reasoning seemed very like desperate and like naked. Like it wasn't seasoned with salt the way they like to say. It was just kind of like, I mean, if that's true, then none of the Bible's true. We can't believe that crap. Bad job.
Flawed reasoning from
John.
Maybe you've heard others say that Jehovah's Witnesses are a breakaway Christian sect or that we're a new American religion.
No, both true.
Is it really true?
Yes, both are true.
Yeah. Yes. So these are both absolutely true. I think that let me pull this up. The definition of a sect. I point this out in sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I'll completely agree with him that it has no bearing on the truthiness of the religion, but both of those facts are true.
Yeah, like the religion could still be true if it was new and American and a sect of Christianity. But Like, let's just look at the definition of sect, because they hate being called a sect, but it's a group of people with somewhat different religious beliefs, typically regarded as heretical from those of a larger group to which they belong. And this is just objectively true. It's objectively true. Jehovah's Witnesses are Christian in the sense that they believe in Christ and his sacrifice, but it is considered heretical to not believe in the Trinity or to not affirm the Trinity. Yeah. So, yes. And they specifically did branch off of other forms of Christianity. Like, they share some beliefs, but they differ somewhat. Like, I think they just don't like it because they interpret the word as being negative. But just objectively, it is absolutely true.
Yeah. Well, they don't like the idea of being cut from the same cloth as, the quote unquote Christendom, false religion, Babylon the Great. Yeah. But that's exactly where they come from. I think what witnesses are like an offshoot of ultimately of like Seventh-day Adventist, I think. Like that's
I think if you look at
the tree, that's the parent node above them. And
absolutely, because Russell's parents and Russell himself was disappointed in the Adventist movement, like was disappointed in the failed prophecies of William Miller. And what they don't talk about, but what I find very interesting is like there's this origin story that witnesses like to tell for some reason, because it's not a very good origin story, that Russell was kind of not questioning his faith in God, but questioning his faith in religion, and he was stumbling. He just happened to stumble into this meeting, and he heard this preacher, and even though he didn't agree with a lot of it, it restored his faith in Christianity or in the Bible or whatever. And what they don't say is that was a Seventh-day Adventist break-off guy named Joseph Wendell, and he was there to push his thing, which was interpretation of the 7 times prophecy that Russell would ultimately just kind of steal and choose and change the dates around.
Yeah.
So like that thing, he was directly inspired by the Adventist reading of the Bible that the second coming, was soon, that the second Advent was going to be happening, and that you could add up Bible math to figure out when the end would come.
And that's exactly what we see with the witnesses is basically just Bible numberology, numerology, math.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm looking at a crude chart here, and so I don't see the witnesses in here, but under Seventh-day Adventist, the child religions of Seventh-day Adventist, Church of God of Jesus Witnesses, and then
what?
Yeah, 1984. But if you go up, Seventh-day Adventist goes all the way up to Millerites, which I didn't know that. Davidians are a branch that's related. Yeah. There's you can actually, I could probably find it better. This diagram is pretty grainy, so it's hard to read a lot of them.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's fascinating. It's fascinating stuff, like seeing the entire tree and how just Christianity exploded into all these sects and sects of sects. And even from the witnesses, we have branches coming off of the witnesses. We have there's like at least 3 of them, right? That are like,
well, there's Bible students,
students, something sheep, Jehovah's sheep, Witnesses, or something like that.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm gonna actually show one a little later. Spoiler alert.
Oh, hey.
But there's one that's happening right now that's really interesting. So I also think it is literally a new American religion. Yep. The way he's going to solve this is really annoying. It doesn't make any sense.
Did Brother Russell start a new religion?
Objectively, yes, of course.
Absolutely not.
Oh.
What he did do is rediscover the true religion of the Bible.
Of course.
The way it was practiced by Jesus.
He had the special knowledge to resurrect true religion.
Yes.
Which died immediately after Jesus died. Yeah.
I don't think that you can do this. I don't think this is how things or time work, like he's saying. And it's ironically the exact same argument that the Mormons use, is that, they believe that Joseph Smith rediscovered true Christianity. And that's what they're saying about Russell, that they just rediscovered it. Oh, 2 by 2. Yeah, I think you're right.
There was a really good image. I probably can't.
Oh, for real? God damn it. I could have scooped him too, and I just sat on it for too long. Not really. It's just, but they're really fucking interesting.
There's an interesting, it's like an old meme, probably from 15 years ago, but it's just a crude hand drawing of a class, and the teacher's at the board, and on the board is this sprawling tree of just like the diagram I was just looking at, showing nodes splitting into other nodes and such, And the teacher is pointing to like one little tiny twig on a branch and saying, this is where we got it right. And that's exactly what these guys are saying. That's exactly what these other religions are saying.
Oh, that's good.
They look at this and go, and here's where we came along and we got it right. And these guys literally say after 1900 years of everyone getting it wrong, they showed up and they got it right.
This entire tree is bullshit except for this little twig. Exactly. That's us, and we're the only good twig that came out of this whole thing.
The tree is bullshit. The tree is bullshit, but our twig is based off of the bullshit branches, which is based off of the bullshit trunk. It's like, okay, you can't have it both ways. Either you're based on bullshit, or it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're not so special. Maybe
what I find really and what I find fascinating about how they frame this of just like, no, it's not new. We just picked right up from where the first century left off. It's like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense, because you acknowledge at some point, like, the first century congregation wasn't a thing. Like, they were not an LLC or incorporated. Like, there were always different branches of Christianity. Someone referenced Gnosticism earlier, which I'm very interested in. I just find fascinating. And like, you can even see in Paul's letters that he is constantly referencing other Christians who are teaching things that he doesn't like. He doesn't agree with. And he's like, don't listen to those other Christians. They're not true Christians. And so the idea that there was a one true organization led by a governing body that then had a definitive end isn't true, because witnesses cannot point to when that is. Like they can't even say the 2nd century, because arguably John, or Revelation rather, was written in the 2nd century early on, and they just don't know.
It's colorful use of it's just like looking at prophecy and trying to make prophecy work in the modern age. You're just looking back and looking at the blanks and just filling it in with whatever's convenient for you.
Yeah, and they're filling it in with like them, and they do that weird thing of like the kind of breadcrumb of like, well, obviously the guy who invented the Gutenberg press, that was important for the Bible, so he was kind of like a proto Jehovah's Witness. And then there was this one guy who made some translation of the Bible that put Jehovah's name in it, and he was burned along with some witches, and so probably that guy was used by Jehovah. And
I remember hearing stuff like that. Yeah, I remember little
it's like in their Bethel Museum too. If you watch their history video, they do a little bit of that. It's really bizarre, but yeah. So they're just saying, I feel like there's an easy illustration to come up with.
And the early Bible students did.
He's going to give a shitty
exactly
illustration.
what Jehovah told the nation of Israel to do when they had lost their way spiritually. I'd like you to look at Jeremiah chapter 6 and ask about the ancient roadways. Ask where the good way is and walk in it and find rest.
And that obviously applies to Charles
Now, if you look
Taze
at the research guide on this verse, one of the first Watchtower references says, Jehovah exhorts his rebellious people to pause, examine themselves, and find their way back.
Wouldn't you know it? But if you look in the notes that this guy's bosses wrote, or maybe even just him, it affirms that Jehovah's Witnesses are true, and he should keep being one.
Well, if it says so in the paper, and he's saying it on the podium, it's probably true. Yeah.
If you look in your Jehovah's Witness manual, you will find that Jehovah's Witnesses are actually right. Sorry. So here's what this is his illustration or parable.
That Jesus walked. Now, can you imagine an explorer trying to locate in a jungle an ancient path that was there? Now, in a jungle, the path could have been covered over by years of
and if you don't know what one is,
and it would be difficult. But maybe he saw a stone or two, and eventually, by cutting away the jungle around it, imagine his excitement at finding that ancient path. Well, when you get a chance to read some of the early writings...
Okay. I'm going to pause before you get to the early writings of Russell, because he's totally fucking wrong about that. What do you say about this? I think it's pretty clever as a rhetorical trick to be like, we found this path that had been covered up, by dirt and branches and stuff.
Yeah. I guess as far as illustrations go, it's pretty apt. From his point of view, he's like, the path was laid for us, and we had 1900 years of Satan and false Christianity covering it over, and now we found a stone, and then we started exploring, and we found another stone, we started exploring, and it's an apt illustration, but it doesn't at all support what he's actually saying. He's just simply framing it in a way that people can just understand. Like, how do we know that one stone that they're finding, or these supposed spiritual truths, how do you know that these things are linked? Because when you're cutting a path, you find two stones and then you find some steps, and obviously you can see what's going on there. But what they're doing with prophecy and what they're doing with the Bible and what, like, you know, things Charles Taze Russell wrote and said is completely different, because these are disparate things. These are things sped by time and distance, and these things are so loosely related that they have to do all this colorful stuff to make it work. It's apt illustration to get believers to believe harder, but it's not in any way going to convince anybody who's like questioning. Like, imagine somebody who's never heard of the witnesses before watching this video. How effective would this video be in convincing them about those things? And I gotta say, not at all. Like, if the person's at all a critical thinker, is not gonna at all buy this. This is just reinforcement for current, you know, rank and file.
Yeah. I think, by the way, that's why witnesses have like an instinctive anger towards like ex-witnesses talking about these videos on the internet, because there's an understanding among Jehovah's Witnesses that you would not show this to somebody you just met in the ministry. Like, if you want to know how this is the truth, here, watch this John Ekran talk. You would like, no. In fact, you would probably be worried that it would freak them out and scare them off, because you have some level of understanding that there are a lot of kind of preconceived notions you need to have. Like, you need to have a certain foundation of like accepted. You have to accept this premise and this premise and this premise to get to the point where you can just listen to this guy talk and not blink an eye.
You gotta slowly turn up the crazy, not just give it to them full blast. Same thing with Scientology. Yeah. I can't go up to a Scientologist and say, hey, here's $10,000, put me in your level 6 class. Like, they're gonna say no.
Yeah, can't do it.
You pay this much and you get into our level 1 class. And then and that's usually how it works with a lot of cults and religions like this, is that the introductory stuff is for the most part practical and I guess sane is probably the best way to put it. Like, they're going to give you some very practical, useful advice. Like, oh, look, the Bible says to be slow to anger. You shouldn't fly off the handle at people. Wow. You know, like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But then once you accept those bits, and then they start introducing you more stuff, they try to build up, and the assumptions become greater, logical leaps become greater, and a lot of people will fizzle out because it just is too far. But some will keep on going because they lack the critical thinking tools to look at it and go, yeah, maybe these are not related. This is bad reasoning. We see the same thing in Mormonism, Scientology, everything like that. Sparky, that's as I think that's very
boiling water.
Yeah, frog and boiling water. I think like on its own, frog and boiling water, I think never works, but everyone knows the idea behind that. So yeah, frog and boiling water, you can say.
It seems to make some level of sense to us that like we get used to the temperature in water. Like, yeah. By the way, this is a good point by QC, man, and JW telling it's impossibly crazy how fast true Christianity fell after John of Patmos. It literally is like there was true Christianity, and then he died, and you know what? Somehow zero more true Christians existed.
Yeah. It's almost as if the early congregations, it's almost as if the early Christians were just disparate groups, and there was like some guys bouncing back and forth, but like there's nothing like unifying them together. And so I don't know.
Yeah. I think, okay, so what he's saying here is like, that is how our religion is. We do not believe that Charles Taze Russell founded the religion. And I do think that, to their credit, they don't obsess over him and venerate him as much as Scientology and Mormonism do their respective leaders. But he's pretty fucking important, and like they've got a lot of exhibits dedicated to him. They are consciously trying to write him out of the story, which might cause him, if he was like a demon, that would probably make him want revenge or something, man.
I visited Bethel back in 2002. Brooklyn, New York, and in one of the lobbies of one of the residential buildings, they had a gigantic mural of Charles Taze Russell. Like the painting, like Charles Taze Russell, and the painting was bigger than I was. Like, he's a big, grandiose thing, and he's like, it's almost like one of the Jesus pictures where he's sitting there like preaching, and he's got like crowd in front of him and such. Like, they venerated him in the past. Like, that was in the lobby of one of their Bethel buildings. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're kind of slowly just erasing him and going, okay, pay attention to this guy.
I don't think they mention him at all, at all, in the new study book that they have for witnesses. And in the previous one, they refer obliquely to Bible, like earnest Bible students, just kind of read the Bible and let Scripture interpret Scripture, which doesn't make any sense. But they have slowly just been trying to remove him from the origin story of the group, but I don't think that they are afraid of his controversial past. First of all, because they're referencing it here, and second of all, because they have no problem in, you know, doing these videos. Like we skipped through it, but the way they like show Russell's face in the photo drama creation, you know, he's on the poster, and more or less he invented colored film and synchronized sound. Like they take great pride in that. And when it comes to Rutherford and Noor, like they definitely treat them like the patriarchs of the Bible. So I think they only do it strategically so that they have this framework that it's not a new religion at all, which ironically is what Christianity did. It co-opted the Old Testament and said, actually, this is kind of our origin story, Jewish people. This actually was kind of talking about our guy the whole time. And yeah.
Yeah. If I actually do look at it, so almost all our religions are derivative of some other religion, you know, like Islam's derivative of Christianity, Christianity's derivative of Judaism. Judaism is derivative of the other pagan religions that were around those tribes way back, you know, 6,000-7,000 years ago, where Jehovah, the thunder god, was only one of many gods. It was a pantheon back then. And like, it's just derivation after derivation all the way down to just these local pagan beliefs.
Can I be real with you, by the way?
Sure.
Because I've been loving these videos I've been seeing about, you know, the name Jehovah and like its origins and stuff. I think if it had been pitched to me that we worship the thunder god, I would have never left, because that sounds cool.
That's a selling point, yeah. But keep in mind though, like you watch Thor, right? Thunder gods are cool. Like of
course.
So but imagine what you would like before Thor, like before the Thor movies came out. Like, thunder god, I don't know.
My hot take is that Love and Thunder sucked my balls, but
I haven't seen that one yet.
I've tried to watch it because I try to like movies. My brain wants to like them, but it just can't with that one.
I fizzled out on the MCU after Endgame. I watched Deadpool and Wolverine, which was really good.
Ooh, haven't seen that one yet. Very excited for it.
Yeah,
I weirdly have basically liked everything. I just don't get as excited for it as I used to the other stuff.
Early Bible students, you get a real sense of discovery, that they are excited to have found the truths that are there in the Bible all along. It's just been covered over with hundreds, thousands of years of lies and twisted doctrines taught by false Christianity. Yes, Jehovah's Witnesses are not a breakaway religion. We practice Christianity by following closely the model set out in the Bible.
Oh, I think we actually missed the part that I was talking about. But he references, like, if you read the early writings of Russell, and it's like, well, wait a minute, you can't do that through official JW means. They don't have any of that stuff on their website. And there's for good reason. It's crazy. Oh shit, my headphone just fell apart. I got it. But yeah, like, they don't make it easy to read Russell's stuff. Yeah. And I can say from experience, they don't want witnesses seeing that. It is creepy and weird, and it sounds like the ramblings of a crazy person.
Yeah. I wonder if they said you can, look at the writings of Russell, are they talking about only the books that he put out through the Watchtower Society? Like, if I were to source some of Russell's writings from an external source, and I would, let's say, bring that to an elder, how would they react to me getting Charles Taze Russell's own words, but not through the witnesses? Like, how would that be treated? Would I be scolded?
My parents didn't like it at all.
Yeah. So they're basically saying whatever scant traces, books you can locate that have our stamp on it, we can talk about, but anything else, forget it.
Yeah.
And they know those books
are Russell stuff like that.
Yeah, and they know those books are going away because those books, they deteriorate, they get thrown away, they get destroyed in fires and such. Like, and they're just, some things are just purposely destroyed by witnesses. Like, I know we used to burn like certain old publications when they were no longer needed, just like destroy them. Like, as I don't know exactly how we did it. I was probably exactly what we're talking about here. You don't want somebody to grab that old light and then use it to stumble people, So yeah, they're not only giving you kind of this impossible task, but they're also doing their best to limit what you can do to actually accomplish that. And if you go too far by going outside of their publications, then you could probably get into trouble. Like,
no, exactly. Because I tried to reason with my parents and show them, like, look at this stuff that, like, Russell and Rutherford were saying. It's so crazy. And they're like, well, why are you even reading that old stuff? You shouldn't be reading that. That's old light. And it's like, well, Okay, so the truth isn't it? Now, what you got to remember is that morning worship programs are specifically dedicated to Bethelites, and Bethelites do have access to all the old publications. They have a separate login and it just like on Watchtower Online Library, and if you log in, it gives you all the archives and sometimes even like PDF copies. So they weirdly are like treated as if they have some unique spiritual ability to handle the old stuff, but maybe rank and file members do not. They don't have the ability to. Weird. And it's almost like, why didn't they think of cutting that part out when they released it on the broadcast? It's kind of weird.
The apostles. We could really say that the early Bible students, led by Holy Spirit, found the ancient path of true Christianity.
We could really
they cleared
say
away
that.
Thousands of years of pagan philosophies and man-made doctrines.
Uh-huh.
Right away, the early Bible students eliminated a lot of jungle
replace it with
from the past.
Cleared away pagan philosophies and man-made doctrines, and replaced it with our own man-made doctrine.
Yeah, replaced it with weird stuff we were into, like how birthdays are from Satan, and how math is really important to understanding the end of the world.
When we die, we cease to exist and depend on a resurrection. The ransom, Jesus' death saved all of mankind that would put faith in him. God's kingdom is a heavenly government that will rule over the earth and establish.
It is remarkable. I do think one of the reasons why they tend to de-emphasize Russell is he does not talk about Jehovah hardly at all. Like it just almost never comes up. It's all Jesus.
14. It's amazing how well they cleared the path. Now, of course, there was still much work to do, but the path was much clearer. In fact, so clear.
It's true. There's a lot of stuff that's still stuck around.
Clear was the path that if you read the life experiences and life stories of those that came to the truth in the 1920s and 1930s, they'll often say that they read one book or one brochure and say, I have found the truth.
Yeah. If you read the life stories that were written by the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society.
Yeah. If you, anybody, but you in the audience, if you can pick up a pamphlet and read it and go, this is the truth, you're doing something very wrong.
Yeah.
You have a pamphlet, no way has enough justification for you to simply throw your finger up in the air and say, this is the capital T truth. Real epistemology, real diligence and figuring things out for yourself is a whole lot more work. It's not just I picked up a pamphlet and it spoke to me. This is that emotional churn that they want to get in you because they want to monopolize and exploit that to get you to buy their religion. But yeah, never do this. If you ever pick up something and go, wow, this is capital T truth, you stop yourself. You're doing something very wrong.
Yeah. To kind of go back to something we were saying earlier, if this was a Mormon broadcast and you heard one of their leaders say, oftentimes you'll hear people who found Joseph Smith's writings, they've just read one thing and they immediately knew it was the truth. Like, well, if you heard that, you would think it was ridiculous.
Yeah. That's an excellent strategy. That what you just tapped on there was it's called the outsider test of faith. It's whenever you hear a religious claim, just take that claim and just swap out the religion and give it back to the person making the claim, and then see how they process it. You know, like you can use it for faith, you can use it for reliance on Holy Scripture and prophecy and such. Because, like, you know, sure, if a witness says, yeah, I became a witness because I read this one thing and I knew it was the truth, you can say, yeah, well, I know a Mormon who did exactly that. I know a Muslim who did exactly that. I know a Jew who did exactly that.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people? What did they do wrong? What's different from what they did and what you did? Because you obviously think you have the right religion and they don't. So there's a difference here. Can you identify that difference? And that's called the outsider test of faith. It's a great conversation tactic to use. Yeah, it's great.
I showed a clip. I think it was in the video I did on like how cults like use language, and specifically like why the Watchtower, quote, dumbing down their language is not necessarily because the religion is becoming dumber. Like it's specifically a tactic that they're using. And I played a clip from a documentary about the Heaven's Gate group that's on HBO, which if you haven't seen it, it's a really amazing and very sad documentary, but very compelling. And they interview somebody who's, at least when they filmed it, was still alive. And clearly throughout it, you can tell just still believes a lot of it in his heart. But he survived. And like he kind of has survivor's guilt for not killing himself with everyone else. But he talks about, like, he saw this pamphlet, it said UFOs, it talked about aliens here, and there were these two messengers, and he was like, as soon as I read that, I knew I had to go see it, and after one meeting, he signed up. And, like, that's not healthy. that's not a mindset. And, when you see other people do the same thing, you know that it's not healthy. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you brought up that point. What was that fallacy, or not fallacy, but what's it called again?
It's called the outsider test of faith. And that's
the outsider test of faith. That's
and
very
use it
good.
Whenever you receive a claim, just swap out the religion and look at the claim again and say, okay, why doesn't this add up now? Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, excellent. All right, we're doing this. We're almost
And of course, this was not just clearing away doctrine, also how the organization operated. Appointments of elders, not elections, not paid. Circuit overseers that visit the congregations like Paul and Timothy did.
Not elections. That's just wrong. It's just not true. They do.
Don't they do elections? Yeah, they have like a...
Yeah, that's just not true. Like, they don't do it in the sense where they, like, put a ballot in a hat.
It's a raise of hands.
Everybody has to give their input on whether or not they think this person qualifies, and then ultimately it goes to the Electoral College, the circuit overseer.
Yeah, and then
certify.
Don't the governing body have like a 2/3 majority rule whenever they don't agree on some type of new doctrine, or is that a?
I think we don't know if they still have that. It was written about in Crisis of Conscience, but like we just don't haven't had anything since then. So I don't think we know one way or the other if it's still the case. But it kind of seems like it.
We could probably reasonably think that it used to be that way, but we're not sure how they operate now.
Oh yeah, we definitely know it used to be, at least by Ray Franz's testimony. Yeah. But who knows if it still is?
They did.
Yeah.
Weekly congregation meetings to make sure that we could study and read about Jehovah and discuss Bible
truth. I'm also confused because they do give circuit overseers some little bit of money, but just not a lot.
They get like a stipend. They get a free place to live.
Acts chapter 16 and verse 4.
One Kingdom Hall I know of in the South was basically like they had an apartment attached to it. So the CEO and his wife, they had an apartment attached to a Kingdom Hall, all expenses paid. They had, or not all expenses paid, I'm sorry. The expenses of the facility was paid. They had a stipend for food. They had a car that was just basically just given to them by the organization, like a 5 or 6 or 7 year old sedan.
Yeah, it was like a lease.
And then after that, it's just handouts from the congregation. Whatever.
Totally.
They're attached to the congregation like a leech because they literally live there at the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah, literally attached.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like that's the Kingdom Hall that I grew up in had that, and our assembly hall had that too. And now the LDC branch couple lives in that apartment. The LDC couple lives in this apartment that is like essentially the upstairs part of this assembly hall. Very odd. So yeah, I mean, they're not millionaires, but they do get some perks. They are higher up on the ladder. They get things that other members do not. Mm-hmm. And as Ron pointed out in chat, they've actually flip-flopped on this a couple times. Like they went from, yes, we have elders, to no, we don't have elders, to wait, no, yes, we do again. And they've flip-flopped on how they're appointed. So it's not necessarily a straight line. And it sure as hell took a long time when, what if the book of Acts, what if instead of there being one chapter 15, where they talk about circumcision for like 4 verses, and that's the entire basis of the governing body in your entire organization, what if instead of that, Jesus actually did lay out how he thinks the congregations ought to operate and how they ought to be structured? If that existed, and that would have been really handy, and presumably they could have had the foresight to do that.
Yeah. I took a technical writing class in college, like 12, 13 years ago. And the final exam for technical writing, you got to be very clear, concise. And because you're communicating ideas to someone who should be, you assume is completely unfamiliar with the topic. And it's a skill to write in a way that you're clearly communicating instructions to somebody else that you're never going to meet. And the final exam for that class was we had to basically write an instruction manual, how to build like a Lego set. So my group and I, we got a bunch of Legos. We just built something, whatever. And then we worked backwards from it, step by step, how to build it, and got that into text form. And if basically the criteria for passing was if your manual was given to 3 different people and they all got the same results, you pass. But if you give your manual to somebody or 3 people and they all come with something different, then okay, now they're going to examine whether you pass or not. This is exactly what the problem we have with, like you said, why are we spending time on circumcision in the book of Acts when we could be writing more clear instructions about this is what true Christianity is. This is how a congregation should operate. This is the process by which you, approach God in prayer and ask for things. And this is how you do. Like none of that was there. And now we have this instruction book, being very generous with that term, and literally thousands of Christian religions they took this manual and made all these different religions. I would, if the writer, if God was in this class, he would have failed the final exam because he gave instructions and nobody can come to an agreement on what these instructions lead to. It's bonkers.
Yeah. It's sort of like when you work on a video, you have to kind of like, okay, what's the simplest version of this argument? And you are thinking of the audience too, like, all right, how could somebody misinterpret this? Like, what's the worst, like, what's the bad faith interpretation of what I just said? Like, would this hold up?
Start with the base case and then, try to get out any ambiguity, any confusion, and get something solid to begin with and then build on.
Yeah, like you have to be like, okay, how would I prove this wrong? Like, what is somebody who doesn't agree with me going to say? And like, that's all of the thought that goes into writing for an audience, especially trying to explain something to an audience. And I'm just like a dipshit. I didn't take an exam in technical writing, but you just sort of naturally know that. But the Bible was written with absolutely zero regard to seemingly people other than the audience it was clearly written for at the time. Like the book of Corinthians was written for the Corinthians. It wasn't written as a narrative for you to read in the future. I did want to just shout out, there was some comment. Oh yeah, just Ron Poe was like, I'm an atheist, but I find the JW-fying of the first century Christianity incredibly offensive. I do too. I think because like one of my favorite things about waking up was just like getting to learn about this stuff for the first time. And I had such a blast learning about Christianity and how it actually spread. Just like it's interesting history and books that certain people have written, like Elaine Pagels and Bart Ehrman, about like these early lost forms of Christianity. It's really fascinating. And it like I felt really robbed that I had dedicated my life using this word Christianity when I had absolutely no understanding of its real history at all. And even if you don't believe in it, it's like cool to learn about real history. And they rob them. They rob their members of the actual ability to research and learn stuff.
Jehovah's organization today follows the first century pattern. Let's read
it Acts chapter 16. And we don't need to hear this for the
Are we casting? Do we cast lots? Do we cast lots to determine elders? Are we following that pattern?
Christina casting lots to me the other day. I was like, holy shit, I hadn't thought about that. That was so crazy.
They cast lots for the replacement apostle. So that's an effective process. Yes, there, Elder Hovind. Is casting lots an effective pattern to follow? Please tell me.
Is Elder Hovind. Well, and they also, like, Holy Spirit put tongues of fire upon people's heads. Like, there was this visual process, presumably. Jesus appeared to people. Like, even if you want to accept what was seen in the Bible as a thing that actually happened, people were granted gifts of the Holy Spirit. They're, like, at least people who pretend to do miracles or pretending to be able to do something the Bible says you should be able to do. But witnesses are just like, and that doesn't happen anymore. And we're not going to explain why, and we don't know why, and it's fine. We just have movies now, and it's basically the same.
Leader, or one man that is leading the organization.
Great point.
We're organized today as it was in the first century.
We don't just have one leader.
A group of
we have a
Jehovah
group.
uses to lead his organization.
And that makes it better.
And all the congregations around the world are united by the direction that we get from the governing body. And just as the apostles and elders in Jerusalem would send out decrees for all the early Christian congregations of the time, the same exact model is used today. Now, today, decisions from the governing body take many forms. It could be articles in the Watchtower.
Why don't they just say decisions from Jesus then?
Governing body updates, organizational direction provided at schools, and many other forms.
Well, governing body and Jehovah are synonymous. Like,
yes. And they also just use like Jesus is so second in command. They're like, because they technically believe that Jesus is the head of the congregation, but they're always like at the convention, they're like, thank Jehovah for all this stuff. And maybe Jesus gets thrown in, but
no matter where Jehovah's Witnesses live, they accept the direction from one governing body. There's not the Latin Jehovah's Witnesses or the American Jehovah's Witnesses or the European Jehovah's Witnesses.
We got some splinter groups off the Witnesses.
Worldwide.
Yeah, that's a lie that he just said. And check this action out. It's the Christians, servants of Jehovah. This is a real thing. I've had somebody emailing me about this. I haven't really known how to cover it or talk about it. But this is a real thing that is based out of, it's based somewhere in Africa, and it's been covered in their local like newspapers. They're actually like, this person who runs this has a LinkedIn. I'll save it for a future stream, but it's really interesting. And if you go to like About Us, first of all, they've clearly just stolen JW artwork.
Yeah, that's definitely a JW depiction of Jesus.
It's a JW Jesus photoshopped on a screensaver where they have like
and those animals look like clip art. Yeah, the animals look like clip art. Yeah.
Oof. I haven't looked at this on anything other than my phone, and holy shit, it's really amazing.
Too many birds, way too many birds in there. It's
many birds.
It's like a Hitchcock movie.
Yeah. By the way, I never heard a follow up. I've been trying to get in touch, but they also have like they've got meetings that you can tune into. Like they've got Zoom meetings.
Oh, interesting.
They've started to take out ads in the newspaper. They've got publications technically. A lot of which are just kind of ripped off from the witnesses.
Yeah, I mean, like even the layout and the style. Yeah, they're totally just aping off.
They also just have the Witness New World Translation here, which might be illegal. Now, the most amazing thing about it is that because English is not their native language, they wrote this wrong. It shouldn't be the Christians' servants. It should be the Christian servants. And so the guy who has been messaging me about this bought the domain to the accurate spelling of the website, which is very funny. Or I don't think bought it, just like nobody had claimed it.
So, I mean, a typo like that, I'm imagining, I mean, it's this, you said this is based in Africa, so probably not.
Yeah, English. But this person's like, kind of like legitimately taking it seriously, is actually holding meetings. And you know, that's to say nothing of
probably English is not the first language of this individual. That's
it is not.
Gotcha.
But that's happening. We have, I mean, let's just be honest, we have the Berean movement that sprung out from the Berean Pickett's YouTube channel. This guy, like, he holds multiple meetings a week, and they use the Berean Study Bible, and they've got a website with articles, but they use the name Jehovah. They believe a lot of the same things.
Yep.
And it's a splinter group. A lot of people are in that, and Bible students still exist. Jehovah's Witnesses are arguably the splinter group off of the Bible students.
Yeah. I wonder, like 150 years from now, like we have these different splinter groups. I wonder 150 years from now if one of these groups gets lucky enough to get, several million members and just repeats the cycle all over again. Because all the splinter groups that don't make it, you never hear about because they didn't make it. And looking back, like Charles, they try to make it look like Charles Taze Russell was like this visionary, one of a kind guy. He was just one of many people trying to start up their own groups, and the ones that die out, you never hear of. So you only hear of the ones that are successful. So it makes me wonder, like what, and even goes back to Jesus' time too, because Jesus was one of many apocalyptic preachers back in that century. Yes. He just happened to be the one that was successful, and that doesn't necessarily mean that what he was saying was right. He just got popular enough, and he hit the right notes, and now he's superstar these days. But all the other ones that failed, never hear about. Yeah.
Sorry, I took a big bite of string cheese right then.
No worries.
I don't know why.
And Jehovah's Witnesses in one country don't say, well, I don't think that direction from the governing applies to us here. No, all of us understand.
That does happen, actually. It happens all the time. I was in a Spanish congregation located in the same state that I've always been in, and they disagreed on stuff all the time.
Yep.
That worldwide, Jehovah and Jesus are using the governing body as the channel for spiritual food and organizational direction. Now, some feel that because our world headquarters is in the United States, that Jehovah's Witnesses are an American religion. But that reasoning is like some who say that, well, the Bible's only for the Jews because it was written by Jewish men. But clearly, the Bible's message is for all mankind. And the fact that Jehovah chose Jewish men to write it down for us doesn't limit its message to just Jews.
Okay. For my own sanity, we might have to stop here because we've been going for a while.
Yeah, no problem.
But this brings us to our intro clip of the American religion. Or actually, I don't think we heard the part where he said God chose the United States, but we technically saw the clip. How would you respond to this?
So just there doesn't follow that just because it can be labeled as an American religion doesn't mean it's for Americans. It started here in America. The headquarters are here in America. I think historically nearly all the governing body members are here in America. The taxes are all here done in America. That's like saying, let's say like a company like Samsung. Samsung is I'm guessing Korean-based company. therefore it must be just for Koreans. Like, no, Samsung can be in Korean company, but still non-Koreans can, participate in it.
Right.
What this is going on here doesn't quite follow, but no, this is a, and the proof's in the pudding too. You look at the organization based in America, American leadership, American values, mostly when it comes to this, like the atomic family, the dealing with various religious issues and such. Like it's got American written all over it. This is, to me, is like a nothing burger. What he's basically saying here, like who's bringing up this objection and why is it even worth addressing?
Thank you. Yes, I think that's a really good point. Like they are bringing up kind of easy for them to knock down, because the fact of it being American, like it wouldn't necessarily directly be related to it being true. What one could argue. What I would say is, I think that in the same way that Nintendo is a Japanese company, but it has American developers, but the culture of Nintendo that was created in Japan and that legacy, like they have maintained a certain culture for a long time that just dictates how all the other branches of the company works around the world. Like I think that's kind of how it works. Their general approach and aesthetic choices, their sense of what counts as modest or appropriate, is all based in America. And I think why it's a problem for them is they want to be this multicultural religion. They want to be this global organization. But the governing body is entirely confined to people with American citizenships who happen to have been at Bethel at the time when there needed to be a new governing body member. Like that is the qualification to be in the governing body.
You're here in the state. You're here in America. So you're in the pool of candidates. Yeah.
Yeah. You know how it would actually be a good way to run it is like the United Nations, where everybody from each branch territory sends representatives to represent their nation. Like that would be a better way of doing it.
You don't go consolidate power, then give it away. That's not how you maintain control of an organization.
You sure don't. You sure don't. But I think that's the issue.
That's an interesting thought experiment, though. Like, what if the witnesses switched over, the organization switched over to a representative system from all the different major countries? Like, you had one like JW representative, like in like United Nations. That's interesting dynamic you would think of. And the problem is, though, you'll completely lose all your unity that you're so happy about, because like they're always boasting about their unity and how everyone steps in line and the governing body is Jehovah's channel and you follow it and blah blah blah. But it's like, imagine if you had a system where all these separate conflicting opinions can all be kind of leveraged at each other in a arena of discussion. You would not have the control over the organization that you would want, especially one that requires such high control like the witnesses.
I think you're totally right. I think that's a great way to put it. Like it would be them giving up power. Marky says there would be major fights, and I think that's absolutely right. I was reminded of the drama from last year's convention, which you can hear me and Christina's commentary on in an earlier video. It's very strange. It's set in an unknown African country, and part of the controversy, it's part of this cautionary tale about not following the branch's direction in not being unified in a time of crisis. And the family that we follow, like the main character, sort of questions the organization's direction and is like, well, these brothers in the city, they don't know what they're talking about, so I don't think this direction applies to us. And then they almost get murdered and shot to death and chased by the militarized police force. And it's all really scary. But that's kind of the ultimate point that they're trying to make. I think from Watchtower's standpoint, it has to be something it's so fucking thin, the ice they're on. It's such a tightrope, because clearly the only reason why they don't do it like that, why they don't say, hey, we should have a governing body that's more diverse and that represents all the different cultures, is they're no, because different cultures would disagree with us, and it's just kind of easier for us just to determine what the culture is. So just follow us. We're not going to let in a bunch of people who disagree with us and cause fights. So just keep on trusting this one source that, it's in America, and guess what? It's not going to change.
I think them not doing that either, like having more representation in there, I think it also is kind of an indictment of their thoughts on whether or not God's actually like directing them. Because if they did have like a United Nations type dynamic and God was indeed directly organization, then all these representatives would still be in agreement, right? Like, wouldn't they come together and all be thinking the same thing and wanting the same thing? The fact that we can't even see that in the governing body as it is indication that there isn't God's direction here. Because if one governing body member says yes to a question, and one says no, then one of them is wrong. They're both probably wrong about being God directed, but can you imagine that problem amplified by
that's so true. They did a really interesting thing with the annual meeting where Jeffrey Winder kind of lays out how the process works for the governing body, and it's very like corporate and not Holy Spirit. And he acknowledges that there are, spirited debates about things, but why would there be? Why would there be spirited debates? Why doesn't the Holy Spirit just show them what the answer is? And they all, because they have the correct understanding of the Bible and blah, 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 why isn't it just obvious to them?
Yeah.
Very strange. I think this is all of this that I can handle for now. We may have to pick up the rest of this another time, but I've made you sit here for 3 hours, sir, and you've got a stream you're doing later.
No, that's fine. I'll give about 4 hours till that, and then I can take my old man nap and get some food.
I'm going to do the same thing. I'm also thinking, I have to get back in this chair and do some editing for the actual next thing I'm releasing. So I need to rest my back because it hurts from last night when I was sitting in this chair for too long. Eric, where can people find you on the internet? Because this was lovely.
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is called Skeptics and Scoundrels. I don't do too much over there other than some streams every once in a while. Had a gentleman earlier, James, I think it was, asking about, open mic stuff. Yeah, I do that over on my channel. So I focus on a conversation strategy, conversation style called street epistemology, and it's basically using the Socratic method and questioning to get people to really analyze their beliefs and see if they're actually justified in certain claims, like a man died for 3 days and rose from the dead, or Matthew was written by Matthew, or Abraham actually had a son and all, from him, a nation spawned. So so we do that over there. I do that every few Wednesdays. I'll probably have one up here pretty soon. Maybe this week I'll have one. So James, if you're still listening, feel free to call in Wednesday night. I start streaming usually around 6:30 Pacific time. So anyway, that's my channel. Not much goes on over there except that. And then I'm also way to upsell myself. I also am a host on the line. So I'll be hosting tonight with Paula Gia at 5:00 Pacific Standard Time. That's a straight up biggest atheist call-in show on the internet. I think them and Atheist Experience. So. But
very fun.
Catch me there tonight.
Awesome. I'm going to try and tune in. It's a very fun show. You're great, and people can call in. How fun is that?
Yeah,
all right.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for being here, Eric. This was a blast. Please come back anytime. Thanks for letting me ramble at you for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm going to close this out with... for no real reason, more JD Vance. Yeah.
I just want to say one more thing. This was extremely fun. Thank you so much. This is actually the first time I've actually sit down and just chill with an XJW. So this is really
wow,
nice. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked with other XJWs, like certain ones come to mind. Alma, one that appears on other channels, and there's a couple others. But no, sitting down for 3 hours and just doing a solid stream with fellow XJWs is super fun. So yeah, this is great. Appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Thanks, man. I'm glad. This was really fun.
Yeah.
Have fun, everybody. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. Wait, I meant to take myself off.
The economy.
Let's find a good place for JD Vance. This is the clip we're going to go out. I'll just play you the rest of this bullshit that I made. Here, we go back to the beginning of this particular poop segment. Yeah, that's probably close enough.
Make America China again. But never forget that the reason why this absurd Republican Party crashed the economy, why we do this, why we scam children, why we care about the color of their skin, is that we want this nation to fail and fail again for centuries to come. My beautiful weenie is teeny. Look, my pencil dick is very hard. And I will say, Don and Eric squirmed the same way my 4-year-old does when his daddy tries to give him a kiss on the ass. Barron Trump died of an overdose. As always, I love Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is my mother because Trump must die, and she would run him over with her car.